What would you do today if you knew you would not fail?
Now go out and do it.
Welcome, everybody, back to the Cheap Seat Critics podcast, where we are covering today New Year's Eve, New Year's Eve, the 2011, no, yeah, 2011 version of
Yeah,
the
you
New
got it.
Year's movie.
We
Yeah,
got there.
yeah. Look, I'm tired. It's been a long holiday season. Okay,
It's been a heck of a year.
I
it's
know, not
true.
even 24 hours yet.
I know. I know. Uh, with me today, is me. Hello, I'm the Geeky Writer.
I'm Crimson Rune.
And I'm Sprinks. And hey, if you're listening to this as the ball dropped for some reason, you can find us on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, uh, X, sorry, Blue Sky. We're also on LetterBoxd if you're interested in average out graphs kind of thing of like all our numbers. And we're also visual things over on YouTube and Rumble.
All right. Well, I will just start with histories today, gentlemen. Springs, what is your history with this movie?
Oh, sweet. I have seen this movie once before, while some members of my family were watching it, and I sat down and watched it with them, and that's about it. And then I hadn't seen it again until now. But I knew it was a
Right.
Gary Marshall movie.
Yeah. I think that was the only thing I knew going in. So I'll go next. I had heard about this movie only once, and this was my first time watching it for the podcast. Um, so not really an extensive history. Not to say that I haven't seen other New Year's movies, of course, because my family has its strange New Year's traditions for movies and stuff like that. But no, I had never seen this one before, so first time for me. Crimson.
And for myself, I heard of it. I knew it was like one of those celebrity packed films. I thought it was a different one. I thought this was the one with Taylor Swift, and then I was informed it was not. So I was thinking of Valentine's Day, I guess.
Don't sound so disappointed.
I know, where's my Taylor? Wait.
Big Swifty.
But this was the first time, obviously, that I've seen this one, and I think that's about it.
Yeah, I didn't realize until the end of this movie that Valentine's Day came out before it.
What gave it away? Maybe the the blooper
Maybe.
thing at the end.
That's kind of funny. Um, all right. Well, I'll jump into some facts here. It was produced by New Line as one of its and distributed by Warner Brothers. It was released on December 9th, 2011. Has a runtime of almost 2 hours. I think it's just under at 118 minutes. Uh, and it had a budget of 56 million and had a box office of 142 million. And, so there's all the basic facts that
I'm
Crimson
curious
usually
where
likes to
all
go
their
over.
budget went.
I'm surprised how small the budget was, considering how many people are in this. Not that there's a lot of heavy hitters, but I mean, there's some recognizable
But do
people
you
here.
think the director of Gary Marshall got the names to come? Like they joined the film? Like just for like
Oh, like a
the
favor
set,
thing.
yeah, no, just not a favor, but like the sense of like an actor being like, "Oh, I'm gonna be in a Gary Marshall movie. I'm signing
Is
up for
Gary
that one."
Marshall that big for that? I don't know.
I
He's pretty
don't know.
big director name.
It's possible. I wouldn't. I don't really know of whether that would be like enough. But they clearly had a. They made their money back. So uh, I'll jump into some of the more fun facts. Co-stars Zac Efron and Michelle Pfeiffer previously appeared together in Hairspray 2007,
Yes,
and
they
in
did.
a yeah, and in a press conference, Zac Efron revealed he had a big crush on Michelle Pfeiffer during the production of that movie and found himself tongue-tied. The main reason he agreed to appear in New Year's Eve was so that he could not only play opposite to the legendary actress, but kiss her as well. He later stated that kissing her was amazing.
There you go, Springs. That's one celebrity right there. Wasn't for the money; it was for the kiss. That's
Uh,
one.
Zach being a ladies' boy.
Uh, Lea Michele and Ashton Kutcher spent 2 weeks in an elevator together during production. She reportedly felt so intimidated by Kutcher's intelligence and breadth of knowledge that she spent her nights researching topics to talk about in between takes.
Wow.
Who who knew Ashton Kutcher had such a brain? I wouldn't have guessed.
Well, if your only takeaway from Ashton Kutcher is that '70s show, could be a
You'd be
little
forgiven.
different.
Yeah.
Well, he
I
he
mean,
usually doesn't play the smart characters.
yeah. It's interesting because actually I from some of the stuff I've seen him like not necessarily as a star in, but just hear him talk in interviews. He's a very, very well put together like actor. He's very intelligent.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's he doesn't really get a chance to show it all that often during his roles. But
No, I
it's kind
think
of interesting that's his
Yeah.
co-star felt a little bit intimidated by that.
was it
Cheaper
Butterfly
by the dozen.
Project? No, not cheap. I think Butterfly Project might be a good serious one of him. A serious
The
role.
note
Based
then.
off the
Yeah.
cover, I would agree, but I've never seen that movie.
Yeah.
I know he's got a serious face on the cover of that one.
One of Hilary Swank's lifetime ambitions was to work with Robert De Niro. In New Year's Eve, she got to do just that, playing a television producer whose father, De Niro, was a dying man. Just before their first scene together, Swank sees the famed method actor lying motionless in a hospital bed, and she felt very intimidated by just doing the first scene together and realized like how good of an actor he was up and close and personal. And she started getting emotional, uh, but the camera wasn't on her at the time, and so she was just kind of like it helped her get into the mood, you know?
I see.
Camera wasn't rolling.
Yeah. So interesting, but I get
Mhm.
it. Take your opportunities to work with De Niro. I would too. uh, Directed Gary Marshall. Another fact: Gary Marshall considers actor Hector Elizondo his good luck charm and has cast him in every movie he's made. This is the guy who is playing the head electrician,
Kaminsky.
Kaminsky.
Yeah, I think he's been in every. I can't remember what he was in Overboard, but I think yeah, he's been in everything.
It's this director's version of Bruce Campbell, I guess, in the
I
same way
I
that
suppose.
yeah.
Crimson, you've seen Overboard. Do you remember who Hector played in that one?
I don't.
This
He,
is
he
this
might
is
be one of the
actually
people in the diner.
yeah, this is might be a bit of slightly off topic, but I don't remember for some reason Kaminsky made me think of the main electrician guy in the Division One. He's one of the video game where one of the characters you go to is like a do you get missions from and stuff like that. You rescue him in one of the story missions, and then he's there to give you like engineering missions. And I think that's Kaminsky, but I could be wrong.
But he couldn't tell you.
Yeah,
Having a
it's
clue.
been a while. Yeah,
You're more into that than I am.
look, it's been a long time since I played it. I think they're supposed to be the same quote unquote person, but I'm not sure. Because I think Kaminsky is actually not just a character, but I should have looked that up. Um,
Then in that case, if it's the same character, that would be interesting that this movie takes place in the Division universe.
no, well, not same character. I meant same person. My bad.
Oh, okay.
Like I think
That
Kaminsky was an actual person, but I'm not sure. Because otherwise it's just a coincidence that made me think that, which is entirely possible. Which now would be a good time to say, hey audience, all these facts are taken off on the internet or just spouted by my dumbass over here, so take them all with a grain of salt. And that is all I've got for facts. So, gentlemen, feel free to supply any of your own, or we can dive right into the coverage.
I believe the only other this is the first directed Gary Marshall movie we've covered, but it's not the first Gary Marshall movie we've covered. If that makes sense. Gary Marshall was the guy of the Harvey bars in League of Their Own.
oh, okay. Well, I guess my fact is this is the third film we have covered a Russo from Wizards of Waverly Place. We've gotten Selena Gomez, the dad, and now the brother. One of the brothers.
Remind me,
We're
what
knocking
did
them
we
all off.
cover with Selena Gomez in?
Fundamentals of Caring.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Your pick.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. For some reason, I could definitely see not Breaking Wind, but Vampires Suck as
It-
Mr. Russo. But yeah,
yeah,
Jake
and
T.
then we
Austin.
got the younger brother. I didn't watch Witches of the Waverly Place. I just remember seeing the commercials for it.
That's fair. Uh, and we're gonna do a 5-act structure today, and we popcorning within each act. The first act is pretty much shockingly from the beginning to Robert De Niro, to the end of Robert De Niro's first scene. And starting us off today will be Crimson.
All right. I'll go with a negative right out the gate here. And that's with Sam's car and his stupid GPS. I don't understand why it's a GPS that isn't connected to the car, but it talked about the airbags activating. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's not a smart car, so the car has no reason to talk to him. So I agree, that's a problem. Uh, I also took issue with the fact that his car suddenly just broke down because he bumped a sign.
It was
Like
a
if he hit a,
car,
it was a very
complete
staged fake car crash.
devastation.
yeah, absolutely. Like if it would have been a brick wall, I'm like, yeah, that chorus, that shit ain't going anywhere. But kind of in that vein of similar vein, I guess, of
Well, it was a tungsten pole. You just didn't
oh,
realize it.
that's true. Okay, maybe I didn't know we could make tungsten signs. Seems like a waste to me. But you know what? At least no one could ruin the signs.
There you go.
But yeah, I totally agree. Springs.
Well, to go with that as well, is it normal for the front airbags to go off individually at separate times?
No, no.
No, it's based on the impact, so they would both.
They both would have gone off
Oh,
at the same time?
if not a fraction of a second, not that delay. Not
Okay.
from that at all.
So that was all played for humor.
Him looking at the airbag and then getting smacked by one. Yeah.
Gotcha. Let's see. Well, a question I had, which I didn't look up facts for this, is that the actual New Year's ball in this film that was used? Or is that all just a prop stage made?
No idea.
No idea.
It's convincing. It looks like the real thing, but totally
Let's
could just
see.
be a fake one.
Yeah, it could be a fake one. I don't know. I don't imagine why they wouldn't try to do like use the real one, but also obviously they have to break parts of it in order for the story to play out. So,
But if those weren't
my
filmed
guess is
on New Year's,
huh?
but if like the parts they broke and everything for the film, if it's like filmed in November, you have plenty of time to like fix it, kind of thing.
Yeah, my guess is probably not. I would be surprised if they did.
Okay, because then they'd have to go past the real Mayor Bloomberg, whoever's in the mayor of New York, and then the whoever Claire works for, the Department of Central something or other.
It's the title is so weird. Times Square Alliance. What?
Yeah, Times Square Alliance.
Sounds like an evil villain thing.
Maybe
Times
they work
Square
with
Alliance.
the people from Incredible Shrinking Woman.
The
World
the
Management.
World Organization of like something. That's fair. I will just quickly jump to it. I guess more of an overall complaint about the act. I thought the character introductions were very oversaturating. Like, it was hard to keep track of just of all the character introductions they were making within the first like 20 minutes here.
And how many stories do we have here?
Great question.
I didn't count, but it's like a
It's a lot.
dozen here.
Yeah, some of them interlink.
Yeah, like a lot of them start separately. Like Zac Efron's story, Paul's story starts separately from Ingrid's story, and obviously theirs meld together by the 20-minute mark. but there is a lot happening
I
in
think
the first 20 minutes.
8 stories.
Let's see. That
Uh,
sounds right.
Zac
what are
Efron,
you
Michelle
blending?
Pfeiffer. Zac Efron,
Because
Michelle Pfeiffer, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Abigail Breslin, I guess, with Jake T. Austin. Robert De Niro, uh, uh, Katherine Heigl and John Bon Jovi with Sofia Vergara. Josh Durenhall, Sam. Um, what are those two that I had? Claire, and then that's 6.
You have Ashton Kutcher's
Ashton
Randy.
Kutcher and Leah Michelle.
Haley's.
I brought up Haley's already.
Well, you combined it with Sarah Jessica Parker's, didn't you?
Oh, those are 2 separate
Oh,
ones, you would say? Haley and Seth is
yeah,
different than the.
because Haley's is all about going after Seth. Jessica's about going after Haley. Those are 2 different stories.
Okay, well, add in that one. And that makes 8.
Yeah, and because a lot of these stories start out separately, it's just because like in the case of Ashton Kutcher starting out separately from I'm calling her 5B. That's what she is in my notes, but
Elise.
Elise. But their story obviously starts out separately. The same with Paul and Ingrid. So there's more than 8 going on at the start of this film. So it's a lot to digest.
It's very quick.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
In
for
a
a
word, it's
2-hour
very
movie,
quick.
there doesn't seem to be. Overall, I think each character gets their screen time enough, but there isn't enough time, I think, in a scene to get enveloped in it before cutting.
It's funny you mentioned that because jumping to the end of the act, the first scene that I felt that with was Robert De Niro's scene because it was quiet and very simple comparatively to everything else.
I think so. Well, I could see that, but I think that could also be said with Paul and Ingrid. Just the interactions, I think, of just 2 people on screen helped. The Claire thing was a lot of people. The Katherine Heigl's character. God, there's so many names in this movie. Is she Laura?
Claire.
I think.
Oh wait, no, Catherine Hagel. Yeah, that's Laura. Yeah.
Okay,
The
Laura.
chef.
Yeah, Lauren Jensen. That's a lot of people there. So those things is like oversaturated characters for an introduction for me. But the ones of just 2, I think, were easier to follow. And the little connections, I think, was fine to begin with, where like Paul's calling Randy, so you got like a transitional piece to connect.
Yeah. And then there are characters where because we also meet Laura's other like chef workers, and they're like dancing outside, like taking pictures with the bus in the background. I was left to wonder why, like, I still questioning their purpose in the film overall. Though that's not to say that they don't get a decent scene. It's just an oversaturation of characters.
I can agree with that.
Well, I was going to say this for later, but since we are on the topic of oversaturation and characters, are there any of these storylines that don't need to exist that we can just say need to get out?
There's a handful of questions I have that I wish to share and ask the 2 of you towards the end about the entirety of the film. But going with that, so you're asking a character removal kind of thing, or just a story to remove?
Like I went to storyline. Like the first one that comes to mind for me is like Haley's storyline. That doesn't really add anything. It's not really connected to any of other people's stories, and even expanding past that, I don't think Sarah Jessica Parker's story with Sam needs to be there either. That they're not connected to the Times Square people or anything. It's just that's their own side thing that has nothing to do with anything else.
Yeah, I think Haley's is the most easily removable. They can keep her mother's story in here somehow, I'm sure, but again, not really needed.
I think Haley's story would have been stronger if they flipped it. If rather than Haley being the real rebellious one to leave, even though that's the premise that it's showing of her story of going against her mother to get to Seth, I think if it was the other way around of Seth trying to get to Haley, might have been better.
I mean, I'd
Uh,
still just feel isolated and disconnected from anything.
Well, I'm just thinking what I think needed to be more done for that connected story with Sarah Jessica Parker. God, these
I never
names
wrote
are
down her character name.
crazy.
I just wrote mom.
Yeah,
yeah,
I have
I
it
literally have her
somewhere,
as Mom and Haley.
but
I just have her as Haley's mom.
anyway, her connection to Sam, I think needed to be a lot more of her trying to get there.
I
Like, even
can
if it's a
agree. I mean, her
surprise,
whole
but
So here's the thing that's going to come into an overall thing that we can talk about when we get there because I do have a lot to say about that. But I guess we'll keep that to other acts. So
okay.
I guess
uh,
that's my overall point. It's just such an oversaturation of characters that as much as I tried, I couldn't really latch on to any of them. Like as something that as a character I would personally like. You know, I think on a more objective stance, despite the pacing of it being probably too quick, I do understand the base necessity of each scene that they're trying to do. They're giving quick introductions to everybody and moving us along to try and get us to the interweaving plot lines by that night.
Yeah.
I guess back to my original question though, were there storylines you guys think could have been cut?
I'd say no because they do overlap with all of them, and they'd have to like patchwork stuff. I just think in the stories they have could have been strengthened.
I think I would drop Laura and Jetson. I would drop Haley and her mom. I would keep Sam. I would do uh, Paul and Ingrid. I would do Claire's story because Claire's kind of the centerpiece to everything. And then I would do Randy and 5B.
Laura
That's
and Jetson. Interesting. I can see it, I guess, because you could just have Jetson perform. You don't need his whole story with her or anything, I guess.
yeah. My thing would be cutting out the what I view as the fluff stories because I think all the other stories have a broader point to make about the theme of the new year and kindness and humanity and pick your theme pretty much that you can interpret off of the other groups. So I think the other than that, so the one I think I narrowed it down to maybe 5 stories that I think I would want to keep, which I think would be a little bit tighter as far as a script is concerned. Because obviously Claire's would be directly tied to De Niro, so I'd keep that in De Niro as well.
Mhm.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, that answered it. Briggs thinks they're all fine. They just need to be tweaked.
Yeah. I think, I mean, just envisioning this in like a storyboard room of how they connected everything. They connected it enough to make sense of everything overlapping and interlocking. But if something is to be removed, there's just, it's like taking a structure out of like a train track, but you still got to connect the track somehow. And I think that would weaken aspects of it if they're overlap or missing in parts, because then that would make that story that is connected to the part that's being removed weaker if removed. That's why I'm thinking they just need to be tweaked to be stronger for what they have.
Well, that's what I was talking about, removing Haley and Jessica Sam stuff because they aren't connected to anything except each other. Those two storylines. They have no impact on any other characters other than Paul knows Sam, right? There was a phone call for that, and that's eh. And
Does
he
Paul know Sam?
used Sarah Jessica.
You mean Randy?
Yeah.
No, you meant
Oh.
Yeah,
you
you're saying
said
Zac
Paul
Efron
caused.
and Josh
Never mind.
Duhamel. Duhamel? How do you say his last name?
No, I mix it. I
Duhamel?
mix it up with Randy.
There's a lot
So
of
I mean,
characters.
Sam's even more isolated than than I was going with. And then Sarah Jessica Parker, her only connection is through Paul with the favor. That
And they're
that's
related.
her only tie to anything else. Well, I mean, if we cut her out, it doesn't really matter. I'm talking about what are these ties to these stories. You're saying they're also connected, that the tracks would uh, fall apart. I think that the Haley, Jessica, Sam stuff is almost entirely disconnected from everything else in this movie.
Removing Haley wouldn't destroy the track at all, and I think the same thing with removing her mom too, because some random woman that we've never met could just show up and meet up with Sam at the end,
Oh,
and
more
that would
like
be
a
all we
cameo
need.
thing than a previous
Kind of,
character shown.
yeah, kind of, and that would be kind of all we need, because that's kind of what his whole story is about. He has this dreamy wish that he has no idea what to make of it, and
Ooh,
that's, you
I,
know,
I guess that brings
kind
up a good question for the two of you being a first watcher. Did you expect it to be someone you've already seen throughout the film, or did you think it was going to be someone new introduced?
For Sam,
Yeah.
There was a point where I wanted it to be somebody new. I knew it was going to be someone we saw though, because they were dropping too many red herrings. And again, this gets into later acts. I didn't appreciate the red herrings because they're just blatant, and I do think they fucked with the dialogue a little bit to kind of skirt around the theories.
I was expecting someone within it. I was not expecting a new person.
Yeah, so was I. I said I would have preferred a new person at a certain point.
Okay.
Um,
Do you recall your first time?
I do
Spinks?
not. I couldn't tell you.
um, all right. That's been a kind of a track there. So, Springs, you got a point you'd
I
like to jump to?
do. Claire, her intelligence of being interviewed at the beginning and being like, "Where am I looking good for the camera?" There is no camera in sight. I think that was just a dumb, silly thing to ask.
Yeah. I was kind of 50-50 on that, but I'm also leaning your way because I thought like I didn't know if they were testing for a news thing later on.
Yeah, I think it would have worked better if someone was like holding the camera but in like the wrong direction, like interviewing someone else or recording New Year's like there's a camera shown but it's not focused on her. That would make her question it because I think that would work better because then there's a visual aid to go with her asking the question, but there's nothing on her
Uh,
unless they
Keep
worded
in
it
mind,
differently.
we're only seeing part of the area. The camera, our POV, there could be cameras behind that. That's a whole nother half of this platform. Uh, so
They have
I,
a wide shot at the end. Otherwise, I'd agree.
I
okay.
mean,
Yeah,
even if it's
they show the
hidden,
other side of the platform.
I mean, but if it's hidden, then there's no like setup payoff to it being asked. It's just her assuming that every interview is camera.
Yeah,
I don't have much of an issue. She's overbooked. She's stressed. She's getting pulled aside to do an interview. My first assumption wouldn't be a radio, so I have no problem with her in the heat of the moment making that error. Totally makes sense to me.
yeah, because they just jump right into it. Like I said, the only thing that I would have a nick against it for is the fact that uh, that they I thought it was supposed to be a test, not an actual interview. So I was confused when the interview was actually going on. So maybe
I
that
did
was
see
just
that as more of a test.
yeah.
I did see that as well.
Yeah, so that might have been just okay. So it wasn't just me that interpreted that then. All right, then I have less of an issue because I thought it was supposed to be like a practice test before the actual day started. So like they were testing for their radio station is what I took it as. And she was just looking good for the camera because she didn't know that she was testing for a radio station. So yeah, it still has a nick because I think you're right, Springs. There's not really a visual aid to help it, and it has a nick for another reason because it. I think it's supposed to be an actual interview.
I think so.
After
I took it as she is very busy running this whole thing, and this radio station only has so much time with her to question and ask something. That's why I didn't see it as a test because it's very busy, and this is the only time they could get with it. but her asking that question just seemed just dumb. I think it could have been worded differently, like, where's the camera, or something like that, rather than like, do I look good for the angle when there's no angle to be looking good for?
Okay, I said my piece on it, and it's not like she surveyed the area. She went up to them and talked to them. So, I don't have an issue.
All right. As I said, I'm minor nitpick for me. So still a problem. Doesn't destroy the story in any variation of what we walk away with.
It may actually,
Uh,
I think it would have been funnier and worked if one of her assistants is there, or like someone who's like with her doing her makeup and checking her hair, thinking it's for a camera, and then there's no camera needed to look good to page the question. I think that would have been funnier to play with.
I could see that as a possibility for funny. Crimson, you got a point you'd like to jump to?
Yeah, something that I don't feel like had a payoff, which I don't know if it's needed to have a payoff, but we're set up here that Paul and Randy are pals, and Paul's trying to break Randy out of his New Year's
Oh yeah, and
shell,
they don't reconnect at all.
and there's nothing at the end for those two.
Yeah,
That
that was something that they just dropped. I mean, granted, they both get a happy ending, quote unquote, but they're still friends, and that should have had something of a payoff.
there's no reaction to Paul seeing Randy at the party, like, "Oh my gosh, hey, you're celebrating, awesome."
Oh, that would have been
Uh,
cool if Paul
Yeah,
and Randy are there with
there's no
Ingrid and, as Writer says, 5B, like they're all dancing together as a group.
yeah,
that would
there's
be
no
awesome.
payoff.
Yeah, now that would be this is a very simple payoff that I think they didn't. They just kind of dropped their friendship, which as far as I'm concerned, is a bit of a nick. Because since that's pretty much the driving force to introduce Randy's character was his connection with a friend who's constantly calling him throughout the entire movie.
That
Well,
would
this
have been
whole
something.
movie's about connections,
Yeah, even
and
if it
this
was
is one
like
they didn't follow through with.
if it was a filming thing, like they couldn't schedule all 4 actors at the same time for that scene in some situation, just have Randy call Paul and say Happy New Year, because then Paul knows it's like, oh wow, you changed.
Yeah, that would work. Hey, just say hey, it could be a bit awkward. Just say hey, man, I just wanted to call you and wish you a happy new year, and thank you for trying to get me out of the house. That's all I would need, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. That's a storyline that was kind of dropped. Uh, I have another nitpick for you. Michelle Pfeiffer teleported to avoid getting hit by a car.
Oh, the
It was a dramatic
pratfall.
trip. Yeah,
That was funny.
yeah. It was pretty funny. But nitpick could have been tightened up a little bit.
Well, same with Sam's car crash. Could have been tightened up.
Yeah.
They were played
I
there, I
agree.
think, for a laugh.
Yeah, maybe. I didn't really laugh in Michelle Pfeiffer's scene. I did laugh in Sam's scene a little bit because of the airbags even not working. Even though,
Yeah,
talk about that.
I guess, yeah. With the word funny, I guess I didn't laugh like humorously. I think it was more of like a secondhand embarrassment kind of feel. That
That's
kind of
fair.
funny.
Uh,
Something I
so
feel like they could have played with her falling, because Sarah Jessica Parker's character is talking about how, like, New York's scary for Haley and stuff, but with her falling, you have kind New Yorkers trying to help her. They could have used that to show that there is some bad in New York, because we don't get bad in New York in this whole movie.
I guess that's true. Unless you
that's
want to call a broken
true.
elevator.
Yeah, that no, not what I would go
I
for
wouldn't
that.
call that bad New Yorkers. That is
No,
just that's just bad luck.
I guess
Yeah,
maybe
so
the taxi then that almost hit Ingrid.
Maybe,
People in a
but
rush, but there's nothing like no one's screaming or honking or
no, this is a happy looking New York. This is
yeah.
not your grumpy New York.
yeah, this is not person of interest New York.
Speaking of person of interest, did you guys recognize anybody?
That a legitimate question.
Yeah,
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 is it one of the reporters that used to be Scarface?
yes, you caught him.
Okay, yes, nailed it. I can't believe I got that.
Yeah,
Uh,
one of Elias's pals.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not
one
at
of the
all.
good
last.
Don't
catch.
know.
David Falson, I think is his name.
Uh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. He's. I was like, I wasn't sure, but now that you mentioned it, yes.
Nice.
um. Spriggs, got a point you'd like to jump to again?
More of a question, and I
I like questions.
yeah, does a more star-studded cast help reduce confusion on remembering characters' names by going with the actor's name?
I mean, for the
uh,
podcast, but for a person watching the movie, they wouldn't really need to care to remember an actor's name. They would just need
I
to see the faces, which I don't think has to be a celebrity to remember a face on.
if they are a celebrity, I tend to go by their name until I get their character name.
Okay. Huh.
Unless I'm not grasping your point.
Well, I mean, like, in a group of people watching the movie, I think they'd be more inclined to be like, "Oh, remember when Zac Efron did this, and remember when Michelle Pfeiffer went to Breakfast at Tiffany's, and remember when uh, Bon Jovi got slapped?" It's like I think they would
Oh,
refer
you're
him
talking more. Okay,
to the
I
actor's name
misunderstood
than
your
being
question.
like, "Oh, remember when Sam got in the RV, or Paul did this." I think the actor name would be stated more so because it's so many celebrities in the film.
Okay, now that I understand your
Yeah, I
question,
agree that.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Okay,
Now that I
and
understand your
actors'
question,
names would be
yes,
more memorable than the character names.
do you think
For sure.
that is a intentional, um, I guess, tactic? That seems a little too sharp of a word to use, but do you think that's used intentionally for this film with so many?
No, not in terms for people to recall characters by celebrity names. The
if this
celebrities are
was
there
the
obviously as a pull for the movie, obviously,
yeah,
because this movie wouldn't be as big if it was a bunch of people no one's ever seen before. So they are a pull, but I don't think it's a tactic to get people to remember the characters by celebrities' names.
Okay.
Crimson, got a point.
Sure. So we get Rory and Trish, very great characters that were introduced in a church in the beginning. So much
Oh,
They're
so
getting
that I wrote
married.
them down because I thought they were going to be relevant. And
yeah.
boy,
Oh,
howdy, were they not relevant.
I never wrote their names down. I just laughed because I'm like, oh, they're not going to be relevant because they're getting married at the start of the film.
Now, is that Sam's friend or is that Sam's brother?
I took it as friend, but maybe brother. That could explain why he's the only person there, really.
Like for a rehearsal, he's there for a reason, but they never said if he. I'm going to assume he's the best man.
I, I
Probably.
I assume he's the best man. I legitimately thought the girl was his sister though.
Oh, that could also be seen that way.
Could be.
I know
I
they're
have no idea.
connected because Trish said, "Hey, are you planning to see that girl you've talked about last New Year's?" And I
Yeah,
went,
they know each other.
what a line to just be written in for Sam to give an explanation to how he feels about a situation.
That just shows
Yep.
how much Sam has talked about this girl or the
Kind,
impact.
is
That
it
was
to
not.
like? Do you think it was intended like he's been talking about it all year, or it's just something she goes, "Oh, I remember last year that girl you talked about."
And it could be either way because we
It could
don't
be either
have
way.
any definitive for that.
Either way, I find the dialogue to be particularly forced.
Yeah, I mean, it is contextual. It is New Year's. It is something that could be brought up if she remembers it. So I think it works, even though meta sense, it does feel like the writers were pushing in a direction. Obviously,
For
I could
Sam's
see that character
introduction,
saying that.
it's a bit forced.
Yeah, like because of all that happens to Sam later, it kind of retroactively feels like this dialogue is forced because a lot of that feeling is introduced later on. You know what they were, what the that point of the story is. Because with a lot, I think there's a lot of the other characters, they're letting us figure out what their story is about, and here they just kind of throw it down our throats, which for me is what makes it odd.
It was an accident. It didn't come across with like Sam as like a gradual character change to go into that kind of feel. It was kind of just a set path from the get go.
Yeah, which is
They did
why I feel like we
change.
don't necessarily need the that particular dialogue here.
Sam had a hiccup. But
It was his battle between going or not going. Going into it, he wasn't going to go, and then the car trip pushed him in the direction of going for it.
and then he didn't want to go, and then he decided to go.
Mhm.
Yeah, the film is about his internal battle. Well, it's true.
Oh, I wouldn't say the film is, but his story is.
Well, his story. Yeah, sorry. Let me rephrase that. Though there is a lot of other red herrings that are dropped in the story for his story throughout the film that have no connection to him whatsoever.
Claire.
Pretty much. um, I think okay. What do we think of Laura's like sous chefs? Like the two like excited nerds. We got the girl from Modern Family. I
Ava
can't
and
remember her name.
Sunil.
Yeah,
I
Ava and
didn't get the
Sonia.
guy's name. um,
I they were a presence I don't think was needed.
To me, Sunil feels like he is on my list of removable characters, but Ava plays off
Yeah,
a
Ava has a really good scene, but I don't like everything else that she's part.
no, but I think she's a good like yin and yang to
Laura.
Laura's character about Jensen.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think what it boiled down to for me is just I think their introduction was too comedic almost. I think that's a personal feeling for me though.
I
Uh,
think it's all right with what we see their characters to be by the whole movie. It's
yeah.
not just they freak out there and then they're pretty mellow. That's
Yeah,
just them as their characters. They're excitable and
I think
energetic towards
I think
towards
Ava
Jensen.
being around Laura helps Laura not be a character that would be more disliked of the film. I think without Ava's presence around her, with everyone being like kind of like in a match for for New Year's and like being happy about it and like working towards it and everything, it would be someone just so bitter about one situation that we don't learn until later.
Yeah,
um,
so I think Ava's fine being in here. I'm with Sprinks with the guys pretty much removable to me. Doesn't really
yeah.
contribute
Ava
anything.
has an important scene. I wouldn't remove Ava. I would argue to remove the guy as well. I think, like I said, this is purely subjective. I think I just was still when they're with their introduction. It was just like too much happening at once for me again because we're just going from one character introduction to the next one, and then we're introduced to side characters now, and now it's just more and more being added on. Um, kind of waiting for I guess a particular feeling or story to develop.
Yeah, just a lot been thrown at us.
Yeah. We also we never get the answer to who, because Elise said it wasn't her, and it obviously wasn't Randy, and it wasn't Paul. We don't know who set up the decorations in the hallway.
Yeah, I think it's just supposed to be other roommates.
I
Like
guess so.
not roommates, but other people he shares the hallway with.
Yeah. Also for 2011, that is a very like early 90s looking the crappy New Year banner. I don't know what kind of
Banner?
design that is. Yeah, the banner at
Uh,
627 timestamp.
I didn't really take issue with any of the decorations.
Its design
Yeah,
was an eyesore to look at.
yeah,
Well,
I'm
I
not.
mean, some could say that the stupid New Year's glasses are a high sort of look at. I mean,
I bet. Yeah, I was confused because a couple shots they were so far away that I thought they were 2002 glasses, but then it's like the small detail of the one was hard to make out.
Spriggs. Oh no, that was your point. Crimson.
all right, I'll talk about Ingrid's boss, who
Oh, Mr.
at
Cox.
first
Also stuck.
I thought he was a pretty decent dude, just a little absent-minded, but then not the kindest dude actually. Freaking playing Angry Birds, asking for coffee when she just said she almost died, which is an exaggeration a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
I don't know.
He was reasonable, and then he wasn't. So he had me there in the first half, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
I didn't expect to see John Lithgow play Angry Birds in this movie.
yeah, Angry Birds. What an appearance! But
What a way to date the
he
film. I mean, it's
seems
very 2011.
seems to value her as an employee, so it seems a little odd that he would misjudge her actions, I guess.
I don't know.
With what little of him we get, it works. But I understand if they wanted to continue that storyline longer, they would need to be a lot more going into that.
And if this has been her boss for however long she's worked here, and this is her day in, day out, being connected to this guy, it works for her to leave.
I
Like,
mean,
if
it was
this
on
is how
the
he's treating her,
list.
it was on the
Yeah,
list, yeah. It was number one. But then again, I can't remember, is this list she created for this year, or is it the previous year that she's held on to?
this is a long time list.
Okay, okay. Because she brings it
Yeah,
up to Paul saying, hey, I can just do this next year.
yeah. It's a long term list. She just fails to. It's possible. It could be reading into it that each line is a previous year's um,
Oh, it's one thing
resolution.
added next year? Okay. Could be.
I think it is in this act where we are also introduced to Brendan, Claire's police officer's friend, or the police chief friend.
Speaking of
Yes.
removable characters,
Is that ludicrous?
Ludicrous. Yeah, that's ludicrous.
And then Common shows up
Continue. Reddit.
at another part of this movie.
He's an interesting one because I kind of like his presence here as a grounding mechanism for Claire. So he does serve a purpose in the film, but they don't give him much to do outside of that singular purpose.
Yeah.
I would even say his purpose isn't even that impactful on her.
I mean, does he have to be a police officer? Or chief of police? Or he could
It
just be
makes
a...
sense. It makes sense that there would be a police officer working with her to help coordinate the safety of the party and event. So it makes sense that he's there. I think I would have wanted a little bit more of their friendship, I guess. Something that would give him more reason to be there. Because, like I said, the only reason he's there is to help ground Claire, and I think he does do a good job of that. And I would say that she does need it every now and again. So he does serve a purpose. I just want that purpose expanded. But with what I got, maybe a removable character. I'm not 100% there though.
I'm not 100% with removing him, but I think being a police officer, he needed to have more of that occupation used. I think his outfit could be a change to anything.
Like maybe when the ball breaks and there's not necessarily going to be a riot, but he has to go help, downstairs essentially.
Yeah, he could
Right,
be an
could have
assistant
been
to
the one
Claire. He
grabbing
could
that
be a
fan.
PA. He could be a mechanic who can't fix it. He could be a lot of things.
Like it could be anything. I don't have an issue with him being a cop. He just has nothing going for him. Every character we have in this has a tie to an overarching story, and he doesn't.
It'd be
He
cool
has
if he
not. He has
was.
no tie to anything.
It'd be cool if he was connected to, like, during the ball drop. Sarah Jessica Parker runs into him and asks to help look for her daughter.
That would be better. His payoff is his family is with him during New Year's, but it's not like his character had conflicts with that or anything. It's just
That's also
his
true.
character didn't have anything.
Yeah.
He kind of played it off like there is nothing to set up that he cared about seeing his family on New Year's. It was just like a treat that they were there.
Yeah, there was no struggle. Like, man, I would really love to be with my family, but I'm here helping you out, Claire.
Yeah.
I'm saying he's removable. He has nothing to me.
I think
Yeah,
he's
I'm
in this.
still not.
I think he's in the same
Uh,
vein as Ava to Laura.
I disagree wholeheartedly on that.
Unfortunately, I'm with Springs on this one. That is essentially the purpose he serves. He's there to bounce off of Claire, and I think he serves that purpose well. My only issue is I just want him to be expanded on, give him something else to do, because that's pretty much it. But that's enough for me to keep him here.
And I'm in agreement with Ryder.
All right.
Again, it just needed to be tighter.
Yeah, that's gonna be a common phrase for a lot of this story.
Yeah.
Um, I will jump to. Okay, I need to specify this. Pregnant pairing 1 is the blondes. Pregnant pairing 2 is the
Okay.
main pregnant
All
pairing
right.
in my
So
notes. We
there's
good?
got this somewhere. There's James is the charm school guy, and Seth Meyers is with Jessica Biel, and their names are Griff and Tess.
I never wrote
Okay.
their names or any descriptors for them. I just described the scenes that were happening.
Okay. Is James
Fair enough.
German
Baby
or something?
yoga. That's like I just wrote descriptors of the scenes they were in. That's all I did.
The one thing that really bothered me is they made charm school man's wife. They made her very, very like
Backseat.
absent-minded. Yeah,
Gosh,
they made her absent.
is it Sarah Paulson? Is that who that
Right.
is?
Pregnant pairing 1. That's what they are.
Yeah.
Pregnant pairing 1.
Shoot. She's
Is
the therapist in Glass. If you guys saw that.
Nope.
Okay. She's in a handful of things. I just can't recall.
all right. But yeah.
Oh, you could
one thing
do.
that-
Oh shoot, what they call? You could do Anchovy Group, and what does James say?
Yam.
Ham, yam,
yeah,
Yeah.
anchovy group and yam
Yeah.
group.
anchovy eaters, and the yam liars. I think that's the insults
All
they
right.
call each other.
Okay. So the yam liars is pregnant
Farming
pairing
guy.
1, which is the blondes, and then the anchovy eaters will be pairing 2. I could do that. Gonna write that down on my notes really quickly.
Just help identify those 4 people.
Yeah. They do all their things together, so I just grouped them together in my notes anyway. The Yam Liars pairing. I was really annoyed in the scene because his wife was so like. I guess she's pregnant and it's New Year's Eve, but it's very obvious that like her husband's trying to downplay the prize, and
Uh,
she's just not picking up the
yeah.
cues at all.
He
And it
She's a
cares.
bugs the shit
blockhead.
out of
She
me.
doesn't care.
Yeah.
The whole when the 2 pregnant wives are together, and she's like, "Oh, it's on. It's going down." And her response is, "What's going down? What's going on? Well, what's happening?"
Yeah.
Like
See,
not
that for
caring.
me. No, see, no.
That's
That's
not
not
caring.
caring.
It's her
That's
not.
ignorant.
It's her being oblivious.
Does she
Yeah.
even know
Yeah.
that there's a prize?
She's the
She
one that
says,
said it's $25,000, and
Oh, I guess she does.
the
Yeah.
guy's like, no, it's not that much. There's taxes. Blah blah blah.
they made
Downplaying
her
it.
needlessly oblivious. It'd be one thing if she didn't care, but they made her needlessly oblivious, which is the problem I take with especially in this opening scene because it's so obvious. It really hurts the intelligence of her character, like right out the gate. And I don't want to call her stupid as a character trait right out the gate.
Is it?
I would
But
say she's pretty dumb.
Do you think
yeah,
it's
it
given that
it definitely
reason
comes across that way.
to easier give the audience one of the 2 to root for?
Which one do you think
Um,
the audiences are supposed to root for?
I think they're supposed to root for the anchovy couple.
Really?
Yeah,
I did. I took away complete opposite on that one.
it seems.
I was completely rooting for Yams.
Oh, it seems the perspective is set more on that couple following that storyline versus the end.
yeah, but
Because
perspective doesn't have anything to do with rooting for them, though.
no, but it didn't seem like an
That's what I was about to say.
equal. It didn't seem equal back and forth of like a team thing to set on. To me, it seemed the movie was pretty clear on who it's focusing on to go with. Whether they're going to win or lose the money, I didn't know. But it seemed
I'm not
focused on one
disagreeing.
over the other.
They were more focused on anchovies, but I don't think they were wanting the audience to root for anchovies.
I don't know. It just seemed to me that focusing more on Team Anchovy played James on the Yam Liars more antagonistic towards them because Griff, the Seth Meyers, wasn't doing the same to them. At least that's how it looked to me.
You don't think anchovies guy was antagonistic?
No, Not really. I mean, he seemed more docile. His wife was more antagonistic. He was the one telling her to back up, like pregnant woman fight, like that's an ugly thing. It's like he's constantly like pulling her away.
Yeah, but he's also the one constantly lying to Yams. Like he's the one that starts the lying and stuff like that, and, like going overboard with the anchovy stuff. So he is antagonistic. It's just not, I guess, in the like a mean way. He's still competitive. If that makes sense.
And they're always exchanging glances.
Yeah. I rooted for neither of them because I didn't like anybody.
I
Funny enough,
rooted
the only person that,
for Yams guy,
yeah,
not
funny enough,
Yams' wife.
the only person I was quote unquote rooting for, I guess, was Yam's wife because even the ignorance factor does play into it a little bit in the sense that she is just not on her priority list, the prize, which I think is more fitting. I think is what you should be wanting to experience on something like this.
I
But
guess so.
I rooted for neither of them.
I was just rooting against anchovies. That's what I was doing.
So you're happy that they quote unquote lost then? Spoilers for
Well,
next.
they claimed the high ground, which kind of took it out of me for me.
Yeah, that was weird.
We'll
I thought
get
they
there.
like. Yeah, we'll get there. And my last note for me in this act is did a Robert De Niro scene. So, uh, how are you boys
Infinity.
looking?
Getting there. I got a couple more.
Crimson.
Spring can go next. Well, I mean,
To me, there was a very movie moment scene when Laura's in the kitchen and Jensen comes into the kitchen to talk to her, and Ava's on the radio on the walkie-talkie, like talking to her and playing, and then she stops asking questions. So there's a silence and dull moment for Laura to slap Jensen, and then after that, like bit, then she continues on the radio.
I might have a controversial take, but I have a question for you first, Spriggs. What do you define as a movie moment scene?
I think a movie moment scene is something played for an audience in a film that isn't a realistic approach to something that could event in world.
Okay. Then my argument is this movie is also riddled with those.
Yeah, there's a lot of pauses in situations where it would be a lot more go, 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 get it done to get the dialogue or the character connection across to the audience. There's a
Yeah,
lot of
like
that.
I would, yeah, like because
But
the with yams and anchovies, I'd say the introduction to the prize money for the anchovies team is absolutely a movie moment then, and
I,
they dumbed down a character for it.
yes, but I think that's also kind of the reason why they're both there before water breaking or anything or contractions to try their best of both being present of that day on New Year's Eve to claim that money. So even though it's said in that way from the Yam side, I think it's still set for both sides the reason of their presence to be there or to start.
Well,
But with the
no,
Ava
the
radio thing,
anchovies had no idea it was that there was a prize.
I
Not until after that scene.
yeah, you're right. It didn't play off like they knew.
Yeah. So yeah, that for me becomes a. So I guess that's what I'm saying. I think your definition of movement, I would apply it a lot to what's a lot of scenes in this film, and that would definitely be one of them. Because if they did know at the beginning, that would be them trying to just play ignorance, but they don't play into that at all. Um,
What would have cleaned
Crimson, you
up the
find
movie
anything?
moment I brought up of Ava on the radio is just show a shot of Laura turning the radio off. It's as simple as that.
I see.
Because Ava questioning constantly to then just go silent for a moment for that scene to play and then keep going like there was no pause.
And it's also just convenient he happens to show up right then and there as she's like, "Don't tell him to come. Like, don't. He's not allowed in my kitchen or whatever." So it's kind of convenient as well. That's the timing of that sentence.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But it's a lot easier. It's like the thing with the Randy and Paul we said about calling for New Year's to kind of wrap them up. It's better than cutting to Ava on the radio, tripping and like spilling the walkie-talkie, going across the floor to give a reason why she stops talking.
Yeah.
Like that
I
whole
agree.
a story to that isn't needed, but just Laura just clicking it off, having the scene. Jensen walks out or she leaves, and then returning back to what she was doing.
Yeah. Curbs, I didn't hear you. Did you say you found a point?
Yeah, Ingrid has 4 tickets to this gala event, and I didn't know why.
I think it was supposed to be for her boss. I think she legitimately took the tickets, or they
Took
were
the
like
tickets.
her company prize tickets or whatever. I don't know. That's kind of what it came across to me as, but I also don't fully know why.
So I could
Yeah,
see her getting like one, or if she's not a people person from what we can tell. She seems like a pretty lonely person. She doesn't expect a kiss on New Year's. She doesn't have anybody. So having 4 just seemed very strange and something that I feel would need to have an explanation. Like he's like, if the boss is like, all right, here's your tickets to the gala. Make sure some of our coworkers come with you to spruce up the place or whatever. I don't know. 4 just sounds like an explanation requirement instead of just her having one, maybe 2.
you're right. She
Oh,
never states where they're supposed to go, but Zac Efron gives them to her because they're addressed for her. I don't think it matters necessarily where they came from unless they're specifically for Ingrid herself. I think it's given to her because she's the secretary to Mr. Cox, so she would have given them to him but opened them.
yeah. If it comes across to me like she was opening his package, either his packages or something to that effect. I don't know. There's
Yeah,
a few other
That
there's a
wouldn't
few
be
explanations
legal.
we just don't get any.
but she already resents him, so it kind of makes sense just to hold on to that. It also gives leverage to from Ingrid to Paul to accomplish what she's asking.
Can a secretary open mail?
Yeah,
Depends on the boss. Yes.
if she's just a common worker and wasn't connected, I'd see more of an issue with it. But it seems
So yeah,
she's the only one working on New Year's Eve because she's connected to the boss.
it seems like she works. She's like the secretary he always goes to. It's kind of what it comes across to as.
I
Yeah.
can't make it 2 weeks without you. Uh, hmm. Well, I'd have liked if
What?
they made it more clear that she stole then instead of just acted like it was her
Yes.
possession.
I wish it was more
It,
color. I
I
also wish they actually showed all 4 tickets being used because it's just the 2. That would have been something cool with Randy and Elise.
Yeah.
If they showed up later and it's like, we got 2 extra tickets, or Paul calls him and says, hey, Happy New Year, come on over, maybe here, so all 4 of them could get in with all 4 tickets used.
Yeah, I'd agree. Like I said, just again, I'm with Crimson's original point on that. It sucks that they kind of that thing dropped off.
Yeah. So, but what's shown in the movie, 2 tickets disappeared or just weren't needed.
Weren't
Yeah,
used. Um, and they didn't really establish that she was stealing from the company.
yeah.
It
My
played off that
my
like they're hers to
yeah.
give out.
It's weird because like there's a sense of where they could be justifiable, right? But they don't they don't linger on it because obviously they don't want people to think about the fact that she probably stole them.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
I legitimately think that's why the film avoids focusing on it. There is enough to infer that what her reasons for taking them, maybe like one of the reasons she took them is because she knows her boss never goes to that sort of thing because he's here working. It's one of those things where there's she could have multiple reasons to have wanting to take them slash steal them. We don't get any, so and the best you have is a degree of inference on why she has them. Um, and I'll wrap up my last point. The De Niro scene with the doctor, where he's asking to go up onto the roof, really good. Like the scene.
Yeah, it's also weird that it's Carrie Elways.
Is that
um,
weird or why is
I
that
don't know.
weird?
It's just another like celebrity just thrown in. Like every scene, this movie just kept adding and adding people.
yeah,
Alyssa Milano's just random nurse later.
I was getting
And
quite.
that's what this movie is.
Yeah,
It's a celebrity
I
thing.
was questioning. I'm like, what? Did they have dirt on these people? Why is everyone in this?
yeah. I have no idea. Well, they want a paycheck, I guess, or no matter how small.
Maybe, but that was my question I brought up earlier. Just like, is it the name Gary Marshall that just made people come to be in it? But
It could be favors. It works like favors sometimes, so maybe, but never know. Uh, so I guess a little bit more on the De Niro scene. Outside of I think it's very good. This is the first scene that I think settled me into the movie because I was still wondering why the hell I was watching it outside of the podcast. um, and the I think this is the scene that pulled me in and settled me in for to be okay to watch the rest of the movie. Because I like the simplicity of it, and you get a lot in the sense of, yeah, he never begs the doctor for anything, asks him of anything, no miracles. Can I see this one thing? Uh, and I like that the doctor wants to, but has to turn him down.
Yeah, you have a good inkling of what the end of his story is, but you don't know how we're going to get to the end of that story from this,
Hmm.
which builds a little bit of more interest in the film. Kind of with you, Ryder, where I was kind of just like coasting through this movie up to this point. I'm like, okay, I've got a little bit of an interest now.
this is it's tough to say. This is a movie. I didn't do it for the podcast. I only watched it one time through where I paused and took my notes and then continued the movie. Without those pauses, I'm sure this would have been more enjoyable to watch. Even just like a point five like aspect to it. The whole getting a part done to then to the next part is very clanky to me. Or just a I don't know. I don't know how to word it. I think it's just the overall pacing of this film.
Yeah, the pacing
I
of
mean,
this film is awful. I will say that right now. I think it's very rushed, and that has nothing to do with me like having to pause and take notes for it. I think it's very blatant.
Yeah,
That it's that way.
which is weird because I
I
think
think the
the
worst ones
editing's
in Act
pretty
Two, though.
good. The editing's fine.
Funny enough, the in a weird way, it reminds me of 200 Cigarettes, which is I know you've seen it, Springs, but 200 Cigarettes is another New Year's Eve movie. In a way, this movie reminds me of that,
Yeah,
only
but 200 Cigarette
without.
has what, 4 stories?
Yeah, it's nowhere near as clustered, and you still get to like a good point with each of the forced concurrent
And it's
stories that are
yeah, it's
going on in that
far more
movie.
intertwined with one another with the characters.
Yeah.
There's characters in this movie who don't know some characters exist.
That's a lot of
Like
them.
not everyone
It's-
knows people.
yeah, everybody knows Claire, but that's that's the only that's it for the big one.
Pretty much, I guess, through the TV and whatnot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they recognize her.
they either know Claire or know of her, which is and I guess enough as a connection to kind of unify the world in a way. Is an anchor point.
And there's only like two characters that know about Stan, Halle Berry, and Claire. And I guess the Doctor, if you count
And
him,
Carrie
but
Elwes.
not much character. Um,
That was it.
I guess
I don't even
oh,
have. I don't think I have the doctor's name.
he wasn't a character,
I just
so
wrote him down as doctor,
Yeah.
so
I have
I didn't write a character list for him either.
I have Dr. Morissette, but that's the blanking on the actress's name,
Pregnant,
but that's the doctor, the
yeah,
pregnancy doctor.
yeah. All right, I mean that's it for me as far as first act. That was my De
yeah,
Niro bit.
I'm good to
So
go to Act
Spurs,
Two
yeah,
Uh,
Spurs.
for
You got
me.
anything else, or we jump to
only
act
thing
two?
I have left is just in this act is the line, "There's going to be more celebrities here than rehab," which I think is a very on the nose kind of meta line to use.
Yep, I, I liked that line. There's a couple of good lines in this for me. That was the only one that really stuck out in Act One, though, for me.
Uh, all right, then we shall move on to Act Two, where we will go from Randy in 5B getting locked into the elevator to Robert De Niro's second scene.
Alrighty.
Uh, Springs, why don't you start us out?
Sure. Hey, this is a classic Sprinks thing where I only saw it happen once, and I think I have a good reason why it only happened once, but it's jarring. When the elevator breaks, and it's before it breaks, it's a handheld camera angle shots of 5B and Randy, I guess, just to give awkward tension to the two of these strangers. And I think it's
Yeah,
the
that's
the one
usually
only
what
time
hand.
handheld does, right?
You both overlapped. One more time.
Crimson Go.
what's the one time thing? The handheld?
The handheld.
No, it's back when they're cleaning up the streets of New York.
Oh, I didn't notice it.
Uh, I said that makes sense because handheld is supposed to imply a form of tension, right?
Yeah, like I
Depending on how you
understand the
use it.
use of
Yeah.
it in the scene, but it's
Yeah,
just
it's your rule one thing.
yeah. But well, Crimson help with the example of that, but still, it's very just like on the nose purpose of what's being shown.
Oh yeah, they have condensed storylines, so even using the camera to help push anything on a story would be beneficial
Yeah,
for
it's actually
the
one
thing
of
that
the
they're doing.
only different usage of a camera I noticed in this movie. There is not a lot.
No, it's a very safe film for the camera work. It's all very paint by
Still,
numbers, um, like Lifetime movie, just standard. No,
yeah.
not much creative camera work going on.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's any other obvious handheld stuff. I think Crimson might be right. That might be the only other handheld thing that I can think of as an immediate, like, uh,
Second example.
second example. Yeah. I think the other one would be Paul and Ingrid in the elevator going to Bali.
I think that's still just a stationary shot. There's a tracking shot. I mean, just pan shots. I think of when they're going to the building, and then one where Sarah Jessica Parker's running to the train later. But there's a couple pans.
Yeah, I don't remember that one being handheld, but could be.
Overall, it'll be brought up in
It's
ratings, but
minimal.
the cinematography here is very safe
Yeah,
and middle.
paint by
So
numbers.
Yep. Can't screw anything up if you don't screw up. You don't do enough creative stuff to screw
actually,
up.
is it in this act? I know what my favorite shot in the movie is. I just don't know if it's in this act. No, it's in the next act. Okay, my favorite shot's in Act 3 here.
Uh, so we touched on a little in Act One about jumping around scenes everywhere, and I think Act Two has the most egregious aspect of that, which is the Tiffany's taxi bit. That's it. That's all that's interjected. It's Laura
Oh,
talking to
yeah.
Ava, and then it cuts to the Tiffany's and taxi thing, and then it cuts back to Jensen uh, stuff. It I was like, blah, blah, blah. What? This
Yeah.
you added this like 20-second thing in here? What?
If that,
Why?
Yeah, I think all you need for the is the start of that. Just show them they went to the breakfast at Tiffany's thing. You don't need to show everything on her list being crossed off.
Why not? I don't know why that was by itself. Is my issue. If they tacked that on to what was the following thing they did? Mm,
was
yeah, I
it
guess Bali
the
was the next
volley?
thing. So if they just did that leading up to Bali, I think that would be just as fine. But just shoving that in there to have something in between Laura and Ava and then Jensen,
Do you think that
not
scene was too
not well
small?
executed.
Like it should have had more of
Uh,
them like driving up to it, and then she going, "Where are we? What are we doing here?" And he like puts the kickstand down or whatever on the motorcycle and turns and goes, "Breakfast at Tiffany," and like just give it a little more like a minute scene versus then 15
to,
seconds.
to justify its place, yes, I'd say it needs to be longer. But as it is, I think it just needs to be moved to the Bali bit.
Okay,
Um,
just the breakfast at Tiffany is then kind of like a
I
establishing
I
shot
would
of the
disagree.
bridge and then the volley.
I yeah, we don't need the I would do Breakfast at Tiffany's. I don't think I need the extra 15 seconds. I think that's serviceable because she would recognize where she is. It's Breakfast at Tiffany's. Um,
And they already dropped off to get coffee first, or whatever they picked up coffee from, because they have it on them when they get there.
yeah. I think I would cut out the taxi on the boat taxi. I would cut that out and then go from there to Bali as far as their story is concerned. All right. I I don't know the actor's name, but I'm just gonna call her the horror lady from Blind Manor slash
Dr.
uh,
Morissette.
Dr. Morset. Okay. Um, I like how she just shuts down Anchovy's team. Like she's because she calls them out for their BS.
Yep, not gonna happen.
You're this
And
close to a retinal exam, or whatever she said.
yeah,
That was kind of
I,
funny.
it was. I think that was one of the first times I actually chuckled in this film. And I also think that the dialogue that she delivers is also twofold because she also refers to Team Yams and how she turned them down too.
Yeah,
Or it's implied that it's Team Yams. She doesn't really specify that it's them, but it's definitely implied to be them.
Yeah, there's
That's
no
true.
other.
There was a lot of babies in that room, so who knows how many births
Ooh,
there
good
were.
point. But
Yeah.
those babies
It's
don't look like
implied.
day olds.
Yeah. Yes, that's my bit. I actually quite like the dialogue in that scene, and I guess the payoff of it with her. Springs.
Yes. Something that was in the trailer for this movie that I saw after, but um, the bit of in Grand Central Station where Haley and her mom are there and they're like arguing with one another. When Haley gives an example of like she's not wearing a push-up bra or a training bra anymore, I think that's a pretty large um, uh, escalation being in
Yeah,
public.
That I'm not
it
going to
is a
disagree
large
with that.
escalation.
The girl's
The
gone
question
wild.
is it within Haley's character to do that?
I
And
as a
that's the question.
I think it's okay because it's a teenager and they're like she's very
Seeing as
set
she runs
on
away, I have no issue with it.
yeah.
I'm on the same boat. It is an escalation, but I do think she would do that, so I don't have an
Yeah.
issue with it.
She's trying to get a point across to her mom because it feels like when you're a teenager in that situation, it feels like you're talking to a wall. Because we've all been there trying to do our own thing, wanting to do our own thing, and our parents just firmly putting their foot down
Yeah.
on
And a
something.
conversation, but you don't get the explanation to your reasons.
Yeah. Because your parents not letting you get out your explanation or your reasons. And even if you are getting out your reasons, your parent could still say, because I said so.
Yeah.
Like I'm still a parent. So it's one of those things where, yeah, that this works. Like it is an escalation, absolutely. I think it's within her character to do so at that point because obviously for her and the way that the dialogue is going is it's reaching a point where she is getting frustrated too because she's talking to a wall.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of Sarah Jessica Parker's character in this movie as a whole, especially for her to get this happy ending, because she's a stern parent, but not a stern parent in the way of I'm being stern because I love you. It's she's stern because she's selfish. It's like she wants daughter time. She doesn't care about what her daughter wants here, to such a degree where she was going to call Seth's mom or threatened to do that. And, and to me, she was too far.
That
I
scene
don't know.
was
It seemed too
weird.
much of an exaggeration of the character traits
When she
that
says,
keep
I'm
them
gonna call
implied.
your mom, and he goes, no, it's fine, and then goes up to Haley, I tried. He didn't do jack
She's
squat.
playing dirty.
Nah, he tried to talk to her, but she used
She
the
shut
ace
him
up her
down.
sleeve.
Yeah, she just shut him down. So she did. He's like, that's why he says she plays dirty. I got nothing. I'm sorry. um, I think I'm mostly in agreement, Crimson. The one aspect that I do like that's added in is when they're arguing before Haley runs away, and uh, they're arguing in the house, and we find out that they only have each other for New Year's, which is why her mother is so dead set on mother daughter time. it gives a solid reason as to why without necessarily making it fully selfish. Um, but otherwise, I agree. There's a lot of parts where they could have softened her character just a bit without needing to change much of the story in order to get us to like her a bit more.
I can see that. Yeah.
I will jump to another humorous scene. Claire needing to be carried up the last flight of steps to go to where the ball is.
I wish they played more of that, of her fear of
Her fear of
heights.
heights. Absolutely, I would have loved to see more of it.
It seems
Like
like a
the I
setup to nothing.
Yeah, the one.
No, I disagree. The payoff is with Robert De Niro, with Stan. She, she had a line when she took him up on the roof about how comfortable she was about the heights. He comforted her.
Yeah, I think the one time that they could have played it before that is where she's giving her speech, like obviously being pressed back up against the window.
That's true.
But then you would have to have a scene before her when she's getting up to the podium and it's just freezing
Oh,
for a
that would have been
second.
good. Yeah, that would have been
Yeah,
really
just
good if
freezing
she's
for a
walking up
second.
to the podium and yeah. No, I'm agreeing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm visualizing in my head. That would have been good.
Yeah, where she freezes upon seeing like the Times Square and then turns around and just kind of relaxes. Like, her friend Brendan nods at her.
Yeah.
You got
But it's
this.
played off like
That
she's getting rid of nerves for the speech, but it's actually also that it's the heights. So
Yeah,
two in one.
it would be it would totally work as a double entendre for that one. Uh, so the scene anyway, back to the original scene, which is where she needs to be carried up the first flight. Pretty funny. I quite liked it. She gets a little bit made fun of, but they all make light of it. And I guess I like that because it shows that Claire Morgan is very well put together, and she still has the very human fear of like heights,
Yeah.
which works for me. So
Yeah. Now,
Something I go ahead.
oh, okay. Oh, okay. I was gonna say now with a $56 million budget for a film and this many big name actors, it's probably not easy to shut down Times Square and remodel it to your liking for what you want. So I'm unsure if this movie has just actual product placement usage for things, but I saw when it goes to Times Square and shows those shots a lot, I saw a poster for something called Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark. I had no clue what that was and I thought it was fake. So I looked it up. And that is a Broadway musical of Spider-Man that did disastrously bad.
yeah, and then obviously the obvious one is the Game of Shadows movie
Oh
poster
gosh, they showed that like
for
5
Robert Downey
times.
Jr. film. Yeah, I mean it makes sense. It is of the time period that this is supposed to be taking place at, so it does date the movie, but it dates it accurately.
They also had a poster for The Tempest, the movie Tempest,
Oh,
not the play,
and not the video game.
that I saw on the side.
It's very
The
possible that
Shakespeare.
it's very possible they did a bunch of product placement. So I don't have much
And they
issue
had
with that.
Phillips.
And they could have
But in
and
Act
if they
1 with
were
Claire with
gonna
the radio station, the big McDonald's golden arches are in the background.
Mhm.
that's true. Forgot about that. Um, I was gonna bring up something else, but it's gone. Oh
I'm
well.
sorry.
Something I would have
Fine.
liked
Yeah.
to do research on, didn't have time, and I don't know if I'd be able to do it in anyways, is tracking where Paul and Ingrid went and to try to figure out how long that list would take them to accomplish.
Oh, their route.
Because they
Yeah.
go to a lot of different locations within a tight amount of time.
Yeah. And he does have the benefit of a motorcycle, which means he can weave through traffic more easily.
Mhm.
But he stole
So
that, right?
I don't think he stole it, but they definitely needed to add a different line of dialogue in because that's definitely something you could take away as a potential. I
I don't
actually
know
Yeah,
who
think
said
how
he
he
was
plays it off
smarter
at
though.
the end to the cop kind of implied to me that he stole it, or at least he doesn't
it,
own it.
Well,
I think he
you could read
rented
it
it.
that
Is what
way, or
it
he
is.
doesn't want to get in trouble for parking it in a bad spot.
Yeah, I think he rented it, is what happened, but I'm not sure.
Guess that could
Not
be.
enough to say on
There's
any
not
of
enough
that.
to say either way.
Yeah.
But I definitely don't blame you if that's your takeaway.
But they already give
Yeah,
enough, I
'cause
think, to his character of being a delivery guy to know the ins and out of the city. I think that helps.
yeah, I'm sure he's knowledgeable about stuff, even an underground spa, I guess. But it would have just been interesting to figure out all that.
Yeah. My next funny scene is between Ava, Laura, and Jetson. When after this is, I think, right after Ava talks to Jetson and explains to him that he should apologize, which is feels it is CW level dialogue, not in a good way, but it gets the point across of what that I guess the rest of the story is going to be about. Now, what bothered the ever living crap out of me is the fact that Laura is the one that immediately broaches him for settling for a truce, considering their last scene together.
Yeah, nothing has shown of a change in her.
Yeah, she's just here and offers a truce, which is out of character for her at this point. We definitely needed a scene of her being talked into this or suggested to her as to
Yeah,
why this needs to happen.
no, I agree with
Because
that.
even if it was like even if she comes from the angle like, okay, I need to be professional about this. With what we've seen earlier, she needs to be talked into that. She was throwing eggs at a wall. Her entire kitchen staff stopped to watch. So it's
Yeah,
very much a drastic change of character.
I mean, the only thing I got is she clearly still has feelings for him, but I do think a nudge to push her in a direction is required.
All right, so got one scene with yeah, I'm fine with her this being where she ends up after another scene, but we just don't get it. So it's out of character with what we have. Um, Springs.
Only other note I have left, really to bring up for this scene or this act is James of the Yam Liars team. It's kind of comical that he's not really charming at all, yet he's kind of the head of a charm school.
I
Yeah,
liked it.
I took that. Yeah, it's funny. I also took that as is more of a like a makeup artist kind of school. But I might be reading. I might have supposed to be taking that literally. I guess charm school.
I don't even know what a charm school is, so
I thought a
maybe
charm school is
He
kind of like
does. He does look like a Now You See
a
Me character.
it's
I'll
a
give
confidence
him that.
building
it's a
thing.
private school,
Yeah,
but I don't know if it's in line of a boarding school.
could be. Could be a magic school. He does look like a Now You See Me character.
Yeah, I guess I don't think that's what charm schools mean, though.
Yeah, I know. I don't think so either. I don't think he's learning like hex charms like in Harry Potter or anything. But that's fair. Crimson got a point.
Nobody wins when pregnant women fight.
Yeah,
That's my point. No, funny line. Like I said, there's a few that I found amusing, and that is one of them in this act.
There are a
But
few lines in this pieces in this act that hit me comedy wise, which was nice.
yeah, and the point I want to go to is with Sam and the tow truck driver. Kind of an interesting interaction between them, especially the tow truck driver. But he does go above and beyond in his duties. He could have left him, but no, he hooked him up with his
The
brother,
character we already
uncle,
met, Vince
whatever, the
Pester.
priest,
Yeah,
pastor.
the pastor.
He put in the effort and delivers a great line. I never understand people with hair. Good one.
Yeah, or you can't say hell. He's a pastor. Look, he has the book.
Yeah, and then he shows the Bible,
that was
going
so
along with
funny.
it.
Yeah, like I said, there's some good stuff to come out of that. Um, we get a bit of Sam's frustration too, so kind of get a little bit more for him in this character. It's kind of I think it's a slow build to kind of compared to everybody else, where we're just kind of quick dropped character traits. I think Sam's character traits are slowly like fed to us over a period of time. Feels more naturalist the way they deliver his us the audience's character traits.
We see Sam pay for the gas.
We do not,
No,
but we can assume
he
that he does.
signed for
Or
it. Whatever that signing did.
Well, he signed for the.
Oh, for the car. You mean paying the pastor for the gas? No.
Yeah, because he said he'd agree with covering at least half of it.
No, but with the car ride, he could have done it. I don't think that needed to be shown.
I mean, it would have been good to show that he's true to his word, but it's not required. I think it would have been better.
I think to prove he's good to a word is that he showed up on midnight to the thing from a year ago. Even though he's wrestling with his own self over it, but
You kind of already covered. You already said everything about Haley's mom, so I'm not really going to cover it. I like pretty much agree with most of what you said, Crimin. So
is her name Kim?
reiterate that.
Just in my
It
notes,
could
I
be.
have Kim listed as a name, but I don't know if that's Sarah Jessica Parker's character.
I wish I could tell you.
I don't know. Like I said, I just wrote her as mom in my notes.
Yeah, I got the tow truck driver's name as Harley, but I don't know. Anytime there was a name in this movie, I wrote it down, but I didn't connect to who it is.
Scroll through my notes. I think I'm almost at the end of my act here. I enjoy Randy and 5B's conversations. I think they're probably my favorite characters in the movie.
It's a little sad that I agree because I'm not an Ashton Kutcher fan.
Yeah, I think they do. I think they do a good job of building like the slow draw of these two characters being stuck. It's the accidental lock-up hookup scenario. That's classic. And while they don't actually hook up, they still like get to know each other very well, and I think they do that. They play off each other very well. There's some chemistry there.
And I imagine you also want to talk about Stan Ryder.
I do, yes. But before I get to that, I would like to. I actually kind of like the scene where Ingrid is scared of where Paul took her before it's revealed to be like the spa.
It's kind of sketchy looking.
Yeah, it's kind of
very
sketchy looking. I do like that she's terrified of it because again, it's again at least playing to the idea that New York's a scary place, and you don't really know how this stranger is, what the stranger's doing a bunch of nice things for you, but you know, you're never quite sure. So she's even willing to give him the tickets, and he's just like, just trust me. And then I like
Austin Paul.
He pays it off.
I don't question how Paul knows where things are because I just go, he probably delivered stuff here. I do question where his money comes from for him to buy all this stuff. Because he's living with a roommate in a rundown apartment.
My best inference is that he just has all these connections. I assume that like Ingrid paid for her own like spa. Or Ingrid paid for her breakfast at Tiffany's, but he has the connections to get into places like soaring over the theater or you know, the connections to get at the spots is what I infer.
Oh, okay. So he's giving the creative ideas of how to accomplish something, but she's paying for it.
Yeah, like he knows a guy who knows a guy who can get them into the theater because they don't necessarily need to pay for that, but he knows like somebody to get in there so she can swing on, so you know, take a swing.
Yeah. Okay. To be amazed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not everything they did was that expensive, like a water taxi or going around the world. I don't know the 5 Bronx walk
the 5
thing.
boroughs.
Boroughs, not Bronx. I don't know like if that's something she's allowed to do or what that place
I don't think so.
I don't think she's allowed to do that. I just don't think either of them care.
Yeah, so that one was a little iffy because I don't even know what that is.
It's a museum.
Did. I'd imagine it's a famous thing, but I'm not aware of it.
Yeah, if it were what's it called? If they had like shown like a security guard coming in and him and like, you know, Paul exchange a nod, that would have been enough for me. You know, like it's him playing off his connections to allow this to happen.
But there's also other people there. It's not private. There's other people there looking at Ingrid there. But they don't question it.
Like I said, it's a little weird. It's an odd scene. Also, Paul's a bit dumb in that scene too. Because he's just talking
about well, that's next act, but yeah.
Yeah.
That's next act. And then my last note for this act is the Robert De Niro scene where he's making light of his situation with a joke, and once the nurse promises to get him to midnight. It's a very human scene because again he makes a joke about his situation without undermining the seriousness of his condition, and it's a very you get leeway when you have the condition and you make a joke about it, but it's still a very hard line to walk between comedy and tragedy. So good stuff, very good dialogue, appreciate it.
Yeah, I liked. I think all of Stan's scenes.
I agree.
Yeah, that's gonna be.
I don't think there was a scene of Stan that was bad. They were short, but
They were short.
They were short. Yeah.
Short and sweet, to the point.
Crimson, do you have anything for Act 2, or are we ready to move on to Act 3?
I'm ready to move on.
All right. Act 3. I'll start us off this time. Uh,
Where does this act end?
yeah, that's a good point. Act 3 is from Haley running away from her mother, because, shocker, she wants to run away, to the end of Morgan's speech. Because Morgan needs to give a speech rousing New York because the ball broke. And yeah, that's a cause for concern on New Year's night.
A little bit.
I will start off this act with Haley, funny enough, sneaking off when her mother isn't looking. She had disappeared only seconds before her mother because her mother's not that far behind her.
Yep.
true.
So
That
that
was
was
something I had written.
it's a little bit convenient. It can work. It's for the sake of the drama. It's not impossible, but still convenience in terms of plot.
I think it helps
It's
if
convenient.
if you go with the fact. Well, I guess either way it would have been a bit. But if I'm trying to think, if Haley's mom, Sarah Jessica Parker, took the stairs instead of the elevator to go down, do you think that would have taken longer? I'm trying to think because she didn't go down to the fire escape where Haley went and take the same path. She would have either taken
Oh,
the
I see what
elevator
you
or
mean. Yeah.
stairs.
Like she's living in like an apartment building.
Yeah,
Kind of place. Okay.
that's why Haley took a fire escape.
Was there a fire escape?
They are
Am I
not on street
misremembering
level.
that?
Yeah, I assume that was a fire. I see what you mean. That might have been the fire escape to get down. So it's possible. Like the all the extra stairs that way.
Yeah, I
I'd
just
have to look
know.
at it again. It looked like a residential place, not an apartment complex.
Yeah, I thought it was more residential too. In either case, it's still very close.
Okay, I just don't know which one would have taken Haley's mom longer to get down to street level.
We also don't know how high. If they were in a fire escape, we also don't know how high up they were.
That is true.
Well, and the convenience. Like, what if Haley took a taxi instead of the subway?
That is also
Like,
true.
There's so many factors that Sarah Jessica Parker had no idea could have.
No, but she was
in play.
right behind her, so I think that kind of debunks the taxi.
Yeah,
And she called out to
that
Scott, or I think I wrote down his name, Scott, the guy who was like selling stuff. She asked like, "Where did Haley go?" and he pointed in the right direction.
yeah. Like I said,
Haley wasn't acting as though she's being chased, though.
No,
Sarah Jessica Parker was that close, she'd probably be yelling distance saying "stop" or some. She wouldn't just be silently running after her if they're that close.
no. To me, it's the train. A New York train would not wait that long for a distance, unless I guess climbing the stairs up to the station. It took Haley's mom a bit because she's out of breath, maybe, to give that time difference.
like I said, it's convenient. It's what I'm going to label it as. There's so many things that happen for this in order for them even to see each other like passing by on the train.
Yeah, Crimson, let's
that's
not
what
living with yourself mathematically sort this out.
I mean, you guys can. I'm down
There's
to
too
be
many-
an audience
I'm
for you.
okay.
There's too many factors here.
There are too many, and too many cuts to not know.
I I started the act. Let's go to Spriggs.
Yeah, I'll go with my favorite shot is in the movie is in this scene where Ingrid Michelle Pfeiffer is on that display of New York in the boroughs where it's kind of looking down on her to look from like an upward angle to make her look small, but she's already in a small place, so she looks big. And I kind of like the creative look of
Uh,
that.
I followed most of that. Okay.
I know the scene,
Yes.
and the visual. Yeah, it's a good shot.
Crimson.
I I wrote Phillips is a bit gutsy putting their name on a mistake. Right. Phillips, the power company or whatever, the power
Oh, I
Oh,
see.
brand screws up the ball. Interesting,
ooh,
interesting.
bold move. Let's see if it pays off for them.
Exactly. I just
Yeah,
found
well,
that interesting.
what was
Obviously,
their
that's not
stock
the
sales in
intent.
2011? What happened?
I know this movie plummeted. Found that a little interesting.
Unlike the ball, because that wasn't plummeting. But
No, it was not. Not
um,
reliable.
uh, yeah, that's fair. Anchovies and yams reconnect, and we get the reason as to why they're the yam liars. Um, because that's kind of a funny scene where she's like, I totally BSing you.
Yeah.
You didn't
It's
know
not
that.
anchovies, it's yams. Oh, we already did that. I'm lying.
It's a good way to. I guess it's a good way to pull out the fact that they're the truth that they're competing with him.
Yeah.
How
Oh,
charming.
perusing my notes, I totally forgot about this line. More reason for Sarah Jessica Parker's character not being good is I fought so hard for custody line. He regrets being a mom with that
Oh,
line.
yeah. It
Oh, yeah, that
was a
one
little
took
harsh.
Pretty
yeah.
harsh. I think she's too extreme in this movie.
Like if she said it under her wait, did she say it under her breath? No, she was explicitly telling someone
No,
that, huh?
she was in
No, it
her
was by
room
herself.
and turns around to go chase her down and says it.
Okay, yeah, okay. It would be one thing if she said it to her daughter. I think I'm fine with her muttering under her breath about that. Like she's frustrated because obviously she does love her daughter. It's just her daughter doesn't listen to her.
It's a pretty strong statement to even say to yourself.
I mean, I say dumb shit to myself all the time, but again, that's just me, I
Yeah,
guess.
but after having a full conversation of each other's feelings of what New Year's means or what Seth means to Haley and like back and forth for Haley to shut her door, for all that to be then Haley rebelling to leave kind of shows onto Sarah Jessica Parker that like her daughter didn't listen or care to the words she said to her, which is kind of a nice connection because that's how Haley feels about the
Yeah,
situation already. So it's kind of a little balance with that. But I
surprisingly,
think it's
I
also an
do.
escalation though with
Yeah,
those words.
surprisingly, I do actually like their relationship because it feels very much like a parent-kid relationship. But I, I, it's one of those things they have to walk that line of making the parent likable and understandable to the audience. Because I agree, Crimson, it's a very harsh statement. But because she mutters it and whispers it to herself out of frustration, I think it works. I don't think it's out of character for her to say that. If she yelled that at her daughter, like as a way to manipulate
Yeah, it's
her,
too
then
much.
I would start really leaning into you're just a terrible parent. But I guess that's just me.
Yeah.
Unless you want to add more to that, Crimson, or take it to another else, up to you.
No, I'm good with that point.
All right, then take us somewhere else.
Okay. Ryan Seacrest is playing himself in this, and it
Yeah.
made me think: why is Bon Jovi not playing Bon Jovi?
Great question. Maybe because they didn't want Bon
Because he's
Jovi's
playing the
name.
same role.
Yeah, but maybe they didn't want his actual name to be tied with some kind of love story, fictional love story with Laura, kind of thing.
I don't see why that would be an issue. I mean, there's a bunch of movies where actors play themselves. It's not indicative of them in reality. So
I mean, Mayor Bloomberg is playing himself. That's
Who's Mayor Blue? Who is that? Was Mayor
Mayor
Blue?
of New York.
Oh, was he actually present in this movie, or was his name just given?
He plays himself. Yeah, he's there at
Oh, I didn't
the
see him.
yeah, he's there when he's at the ceremony or whatever.
Gotcha. Well,
Anyway, that was my joke.
but yeah, no, I
But
don't know
Bon
why
Jovi
he
not being
just
Bon
wasn't Bon
Jovi, I don't
Jovi.
get it. Yeah.
It would have been funny if, as Jensen, he sang a Bon Jovi song.
That would just make it even more weird. I mean, the billboards that we've already talked about of Tempest and Sherlock Holmes, I was looking up the casts of those movies to see if there was any crossover.
Desperately
One of
trying to
those
draw
things.
connections.
Yeah.
Trying to see if they broke universe, and at least the ones I caught, there weren't any.
The
universe
bloopers
breaks.
at the end don't count, right?
No,
Okay.
No,
doesn't count.
it's the
Because
bloopers.
there's actors in this movie that are in Valentine's Day.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
Okay.
I quite like the way 5B kind of breaks down Randy's character. Like it's convenient in the way that she lays it all out, because I think there's a point where she could have guessed all this correctly just by asking him more questions and like actually, if the two of them put in a little more effort to get to know each other during an earlier scene between the two of them, I think she actually could correctly guess it. But as much as I enjoy it, I have to label it as a little bit convenient of how close she gets everything. I am happy she's wrong about the ending, though, about it not being confused, it being really in college, but she guessed that it was high school.
I agree, it's a little convenient, but I think it's fine. In general.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
convenient,
it's
but
fine.
yeah, like I said, I wrote it down as convenient. It's a nitpick. I don't have a large issue with the scene because I actually quite like the scene overall. Even in terms of objectivity, I think the scene accomplishes quite a bit that I like. And I like that they ultimately, it's kind of like the start of their bonding process.
Yeah. A better understanding of one another.
Yeah. Springs. Someone to jump to?
Oh boy. Well, we touched on it earlier a little, but I'm glad that when Paul, well, in a way, Paul being on the phone complaining about Ingrid was stupid, being that she's within earshot of him on the phone, but I'm glad they didn't play it off that she didn't hear because she's in the room with him.
I
If that makes
agree.
sense.
Yeah,
I'm glad they did something with it.
Yeah. There was
Even
an
though
actual consequence to that action, and it wasn't just played for his feelings to the audience to see what he's thinking.
Unfortunately, the action was just stupid and a movie moment, some could say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is definitely a movie moment.
I'm just glad it's met up with that she heard, because they're in a silent room.
Yeah. It's convenient when it happens. I guess I like the drama that comes out of it, even though it's very quickly solved within their next scene together.
He's a few sandwiches short of a picnic.
Yeah, but what a line. Is that a common phrase?
What a line.
I don't know if I've
I
ever
think I've
heard that.
actually heard of that before.
The anchovies team, they get home. He's doing
yeah.
yoga, and then her water breaks like instantly.
Yeah, and he says a line that's really dropped his intelligence for me.
His intelligence has dropped
He
completely
had
in this scene.
intelligence?
Well, him yelling for a taxi in the apartment, I think, was too much.
Oh, you should probably come with me, huh? Yeah.
I
He
get,
says a lot of blabbering, stupid stuff.
yeah, I
Yeah,
get like in the moment, it's like you're on limited time. You got to make sure you're focused and know what to do. And he's like so rushed with emotions and everything, especially from just coming from the hospital. So I get all that.
I can't believe I'm going to say this. It's a subversion of expectations because normally it's the pregnant lady that's freaking out, but it's the guy in this case.
I don't know if I agree. I think it could be both.
Oh, it absolutely could be both, but I'm saying typically when you have a pregnant scene, it's usually the girl freaking out. Um,
I'm gonna have to disagree on that one too.
I think it could
I
be
feel like I've
50-50.
seen more examples of the guy freaking out than the girl.
The guy, I think, has more pressure because he is the dependent
He
one
doesn't know what
to
to do.
get to where
Yeah.
you need to go.
yeah, I'm not saying that it's okay. I'm not calling the subversion quote unquote bad. I'm just saying that it's there.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand that my stigmatism with Ryan Johnson has absolutely labeled Subversion of Expectations as terrible. I'm fine with the guy freaking out, to be clear. What I don't like is that they just make him a complete idiot while doing so.
Agreed.
I know how to hail a taxi. Turns his back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Turns his back, somebody immediately gets in. I think the
Yeah, or
taxi
just
driver
him
would see the pregnant woman
running.
have made a guess.
She's just standing there with the bag, and he just goes running across the shot.
Yeah, and you know what was a little too much? The fact that they get a bicycle guy.
100%.
Yeah,
That was
That's
when
faster than just waiting for
you're in
another
New
real
York. Wait
taxi.
for another taxi.
Yeah. I in 2011, absolutely just wait for another taxi. They do transfer to Uber drivers in like 2020.
Yeah,
But
especially if they showed a shot of if they showed a shot of the street where there's that one taxi that's arriving and no other taxis around, then I guess it's a little more for the bicycle. But when he hails the taxi that the other guy steals, another taxi drives by them.
yeah, you know another thing you can do is you can also just call the taxi service and they will send a taxi to you.
Oh, I don't think he knows how to use a phone at this moment.
Yeah, no, he's like I said, he declined really, really quickly. I was checked out of the film when they were on the bicycle carriage for a solid 30 seconds there. I was completely thrown out as far as my immersion.
Super goofy. More Randy and 5B is the singing bit. He's trying to goad her into singing. He wants to connect with her more with that. She wants to see his art. It's very nice. Nice stuff. Randy, that might be the next act, the reveal of the art, but it was, I don't know. His art was a little interesting. Not what I was expecting.
He's a
Even though he
comic
said he was
artist.
a
He
comic
drew a
guy.
comic book. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The
Yeah,
girl
the
didn't look.
singing
The girl was
aesthetic.
blonde. It wasn't even her.
Well, it's black and white. That is what he's drawing, but I get what you're saying.
I mean, there's a way of depicting
Um,
dark hair in a comic, and he
but
depicted
yeah,
it as
no, I
light
agree.
hair.
Randy and 5B bonding. I like the singer stuff, and again, they're talking about like what their goals were in life, and how she's hoping that as a backup singer, Jetson would take her on tour. Shame that didn't work out for her,
Yeah,
but
tour's been canceled.
Yeah.
right.
A point I saw was weird is that there's the whole masquerade party to get to that's going to happen, and when we see the masquerade party where I guess Sam's arriving to it, not everyone's in a masquerade mask.
Not that
It's
many at
maybe
all,
half.
actually. Yeah,
And I was questioning, what's the point then? Because Paul really sold it as like, oh, you can get with anyone, and then you don't know who anyone is, so you can do this and that, which is what he's selling to Ingrid, and it's just
yeah, I agree. I found that a little interesting, and not in a good way. Especially since this is supposed to be some big exclusive event. It's you think the guests would take it a bit more seriously than it's just some random party.
yeah. I don't know. It was because they had the budget to get Matt. I mean, they have them, but they don't have enough. Then just don't shoot that many people. I don't know where the confusion is to relay that it's like to not go to a masquerade party of it being a masquerade party where they only have half the people. I
Yeah,
think
I mean, it's not. They don't even play with anything that it's a masquerade ball. There's no like, oh, well, let's go with Randy and Paul. What if at the end they're both there with masks, and then Paul takes his off, and Randy, is that you, or vice versa, whichever. I don't know.
oh yeah,
Um,
could
play
be.
with the fact that there's masks, but there is nothing with the masks that are played with either in the movie.
Yeah, they definitely pitch it as like they're in giant costumes. Like they pitch it as it's going to be completely anonymous, and the masks are like don't. It's the joke of like Clark Kent, pretty much what the masks equivalent are.
That's how Paul sells it.
Yeah,
But that could also imply that Paul's never been to one.
it's true. He might not have been to one, but they don't really play with the idea, which is kind of a shame. Because if it was his first one, you think they would make a point of that too. there's just a lot of stuff about Paul and Randy that's dropped off, which is a shame because I think they're some of the stronger characters in the film.
Yeah. Again, could have been tighter.
Um, uh, we finally found the man, the myth, the legend, Scott Sterling. We found his rival, the man, the myth, the legend, Kaminsky.
Yes, so the legend. Everyone's just bowing to
Wow,
me. I mean, it's
I'm a little baffled. Scott Skurling compared to Kaminsky is interesting, but okay.
they parted the seas for this man,
They're
the
both
man that can
revered greatly.
Yeah,
unplug
these
and
two
plug in light
legends,
bulbs.
how they're attracted to balls. I get it.
Mm.
um, but I quite like how they I guess play off his arrival and his like great importance to the city and everything.
Yeah, and how much he
Yeah.
just, I mean, he showed up because he was asked, but like any little excuse for him to weasel his way out of like not being here, he takes, which I think really
You
just
fired me.
goes into the introduction of the character.
I got speaking of subversion. I got subverted. I was like, oh my gosh, we're going for like an Omega level celebrity. Who's it gonna be? And
Turns out
then
to be
this guy.
nobody.
It's this guy.
That's
Who,
awesome.
Hector?
Spranks, let's not pretend he's a huge guy, okay?
He's not a huge guy, but he's in
So
multiple things.
they were building it up like he was going to be this big thing,
Yeah,
and
Well,
you're
it kind of,
expecting Arnold
it
Schwarzenegger
wasn't like
to come out
it
of
wasn't
yeah,
that.
Tom
but
Cruise.
it
Yeah,
kind
Arnold
of
Schwarzenegger.
aids, I guess, with those who know Gary Marshall that Hector's in all his movies. It's like, where's the Hector role?
Sure, could be an Easter egg thing.
Yeah, maybe, maybe. It works in either case. Um,
Yeah, it's not George
and it's,
Clooney.
yeah, it's true. Speaking of uh, I guess continuing our theme from earlier about Robert De Niro's scenes always being like really really good. In this scene, we kind of get the fact that he doesn't know how to deal with the fact that the nurse is constantly being nice to him
Is this
because
also
of
where
how
he goes into where he doesn't recognize people that well?
no, not quite yet.
Okay, because I couldn't
This is
tell if that. Well, okay, we're not there. Never mind.
yeah. This scene in this scene, he's just apologizing because he's like he doesn't deserve to someone being nice to him is how he explains it, and he doesn't know how to deal with that because of how much of a horrible person he was and how he alienated everybody in his life.
Yeah,
And again, Robert De Niro's acting really, really good on top of a decent script. So good job. I appreciate the scene a lot.
I found a convenience in the film. I guess the tail end of this act when Claire gives her speech. It's convenient that all these stories we know of people are in an area where they are watching the TV.
I mean,
uh,
Sam wasn't watching it, or um,
yeah. Well, they do a good
Jessica
job because they cut
Parker.
to the one person who wasn't watching, and I think that's Sam.
No, it cuts to a
After,
bunch of people. I don't know if it cuts to Sam, but it cuts to a bunch of people. Like
maybe.
Ingrid and Paul are in a cafe shop watching it, and Stan's in his hospital room watching it, and like other people are watching the program, but they're just in a area currently on their storyline of where they are to be in the situation to watch it, which I found is convenient.
Um,
I don't find it that convenient.
because it's a news
The people wouldn't work
broadcast.
to go around to watch it.
Yeah. Like I mean, it's one of those things. Like if you're at a bar on New Year's, you're gonna have the broadcast up for it. So it makes sense that they're broadcasting that,
Yeah, but why?
which makes sense for the
It
cafe. Makes sense for Stan because he wants to see it.
Stan makes sense
Um,
because he has nothing else to do trapped in a hospital room. But the other characters are just in the path they're on to be in the place to watch it, kind of thing. I'm not off that it's like in a bar or in a cafe or where it's being played. It's just the characters are in the environment where they are to watch it.
I
Why
will
couldn't they have
say,
been like, oh, we need it's about to strike 12. We need to go somewhere that has a TV. Like, why
well,
can't that
the
be
interesting thing
something
is,
they want to do?
I don't think Paul is watching it. At least last I checked, Paul's in the bathroom with talking with his sister Stephanie, right?
No, it would be Kim on the phone. That's later.
Okay, so that's after the speech.
Yeah, I believe so. Because
Yeah, because
Kim's at
I
the
remember
bar,
seeing
but it's not
I
on the
remember
TV
seeing
then.
yeah, I remember seeing Ingrid watching
She is there in the
the
cafe,
yeah.
and
Is
that's
he
where
in the cafe too with her?
he is. I think he's getting coffee, and that's where she like pitches the idea, "Hey, you don't have to do this anymore." I think that's the scene where they make up, kind of thing, and
Well,
continue
no,
the
that the
list.
scene where they make up happens after his call with his sister.
Oh, that's much later.
Yeah.
Because Kim's at a bar looking for Haley, and the drunk guy, falls into her lap.
Yeah, I assumed that was at the same place. Like I thought, my reading of the scene was he came out of the restroom and then went to Ingrid, so they just had been there for a while. The convenient thing for me there originally was the fact I don't know why they're still together after what happened. It's convenient that they are still together.
Yeah. What helps for me that those two scenes are separately timed is when Morgan gives a speech, it's still light outside.
Yeah, because we do a time jump as well once I think her speech is done. Um, let's see. It double. I actually quite like Sam's story. Went to the pastor's wife, I think.
Yes. Wife, and then the
Uh,
grandpa and the two kids. Or three kids.
yeah,
Oh,
I like that
grandpa.
this. Yeah, I like the story they all have. I like the way that I just like this scene because it pulls me into Sam's story a little bit more. Kind of gives you the rest of like the perspective on his character going forward.
Yeah. I
Um,
I guess that is a little praise I'll give to the tone of the movie is that in the scenes it has, there are the things going on kind of scenes, like the event stuff, and then it's met to combat with the scenes of dialogue talking. Not saying every scene doesn't have dialogue talking, I just like there's the slow character talking parts, and then there's the characters doing something parts.
yeah, I'd agree with that. Um, and they've this is kind of one of those things like because of how busy everything else is doing. One of the things I did like after the first half hour of the show of the film, uh, they were able to slow like particular character storylines down, so that way we have that breather going between like the more filled, I guess, storylines. So like we go from the speech including almost everybody to kind of Sam where he's by himself essentially, like where he's still just chatting with the family. But I guess I'm out for Act Three. How are we looking for Act Four, gentlemen?
Last
Looking
thing I have for
over.
Act 3 is another line I liked. Sorry I don't speak Spanish. I'm from Ohio. Just found that amusing. That's about it for this act for me.
I think that's all I have for Act 3. Something I guess I missed in Act 2 to go off of what just Crimson said was uh I don't know if it's just a trait of the trait of the actress, but Sofia Vergara saying "in my country," which I feel like she does all the time in Modern Family.
Yeah, I feel like that's there for the meta joke.
Okay,
I feel like she
I
plays
feel
that in
like
a lot of her roles because of her heavy accent.
yeah,
okay, that's just an easy shoe in then.
yeah. It works for the character, but yeah, it is a bit overplayed with the actress. Um, I think the only thing I have to add onto this act is I like the way Morgan's speech kind of doubles as both stalling tactics if you're reading into it, and I it took a minute, I guess, for me to settle into the fact that she was capable as a character of wanting to do this. But I think it works for me. Is ultimately the conclusion I came to. There was something like there was a beat or something missing for me where it didn't quite land. But I think I settled on it being okay for the character being capable of this because it kind of comes out of nowhere, but it still works.
I think it fit because she's very proficient with her job because the ball screwing up isn't on her. That's just
Yeah,
something that happened.
yeah.
Everything else is worked out. Jetson being late, Jensen, not Jensen, being like not on her. She scheduled it fine, so she's proficient in her job. So doing damage control with this speech, I think, is within her capabilities.
Yeah. And we kind of set up that she's at least familiar talking to news because we've all the other previous stuff. So it wasn't. I don't think it was the character stuff. It might have just been the pacing that felt off to me because there was something about it that didn't sit quite right. I'm not sure what it is, though I do like the ultimate takeaway from the scene. But that again, that's just a personal thing for me, and even I this is an instance where I don't know how to describe my personal feelings toward it. So
Well, if you have a
Mhm.
positive, then it's up. If you have a negative, it's down.
yeah, pretty much.
Sorry, that seemed very juvenile of me to say. I apologize.
Yeah. It evens out. I think is where I have it because, like I said, there's something off that feels off about it, which would be the negative. But I think I like the scene overall, which would be the positive about it. Um, all right. And I guess with that, Act Four.
Right.
Spriggs, why don't you start us off?
Again, in Laura's character, you brought it up earlier, writer, where she gave the truce with Jensen, which was just a back to not following. Same thing happens here when Ava comes to her and she goes, "Oh, I won't be gawking. I'm professional." And the next thing we see her doing is, I guess, professionally gawking at Jensen.
Yeah,
Professionally gawking.
professionally gawking.
I don't know. She said she's a
I,
professional and she doesn't gawk, and then we immediately see her doing it. So
I have an interesting read of this series, this movie. And granted, I think the movie's too surface level to do this. I thought Jensen imagined her up
oh,
there.
no, 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 no. I don't think
No, no,
so.
I agree. I agree. Movie's not capable. I don't think that's what the intention was, but I liked this personal reading I had of it, potential anyway, where Jetson, while singing this love song, imagined her on the balcony because that's what he wants to see. He wants to see her watching him.
Would that have been better?
Um, it could play into it a little bit more because she could still be working away in the kitchens and still listening to the song, but not up there watching.
Right. Interesting that you bring up seeing things. I had a similar thought, but in the last act with Halle Berry, I thought that was like an old recording that she was watching, not a
Not a
live
current one. Yeah, it was very
thing.
weird. I also got the same vibe that it felt like an old recording,
You
and
know,
that was her way of mourning.
I'm not following. Old recording of what?
her fiance, husband,
The
whatever
military
that
husband. Yeah,
the military guy. That's the next act. But
it was very, very.
Oh,
Yeah, we'll
of
touch more
Common.
on that when we
Yeah.
get there.
yeah, we'll
Yeah,
we'll get to it. There's an interesting parallel that we both saw something similar with two different scenes.
yeah. I think it would have been better to answer your question, Springs. It works the way it is. I'm fine with her professionally gawking.
Okay.
Because it would have added, at least in my version of better, I think I would have preferred more romantic tension. Because a lot of things, this is a basic thing for writers everywhere. Tension is better than action to a certain point, and I think adding more romantic tension here would have been added, I guess, to the feeling of payoff. Because Jetson goes from this scene, I think, to like sitting outside in his car, feeling like he screwed up. Even though he saw her gawking at him. So for me, there's a little bit of incongruency there in terms of the pacing of where they're going to take the characters. So if she had been imagining her up there, and we see that he's imagining it by her just listening downstairs while she's working away in the kitchen, we know that there's definitely a pull still there between them. But she ultimately wasn't there to watch him, and that's what leads to him being a little bit more down in the dumps as we see him later on.
Yeah, if they played it off that way, that would have been good.
And that's how I guess I would see it as quote unquote better if they chose not to her, I guess, actually being there to watch him. That being
Okay.
said, with what we have, it works. I'm not gonna disparage the scene completely for it. But I will disparage it in the way you are, which is it's a 180 for her with what she's saying and what she's not doing.
Yeah, I was just questioning if that goes more into character damage for you because it already played off once before of that with the example you
Yeah.
gave.
The first one feels like character damage. Here, it feels more like denial. Does that make sense?
I
With
guess.
Laura or with
With Laura,
Jensen?
she's in denial that she still has feelings for him, which is why she's making the promise. But she ultimately goes up because she can't stop her curiosity, which I think functions better than in the previous scene.
Okay.
So it's not a character break; it's more of a nick in the pacing, I guess.
Character realignment.
Yeah.
Uh, I'll jump to another issue I have with Haley, and that's the text she sent Seth, which looked like it's the only message she sent to Seth, but that's being a little nitpicky. The "save a kiss for me" thing stood out as being a little weird because our introduction to Haley's storyline was with her friends, like exciting her about, ooh, what's going to happen with Seth and Midnight, and she's like, oh, it's nothing like that,
Do you
and
even
it
know how
feels
to
like they're
kiss? I know
more,
videos about it.
yeah. So it feels like her and Seth are more friends, but that message of "save a kiss for me" is more than that. That's like a open secret at that point, which is something I don't think they were playing with at all earlier. That
Oh, so
stood
like
out
the
as too
idea
much
of
of an
they're two.
advancement.
Oh, I see what you mean.
See
Like they
what you're
weren't
saying.
confirmed to be boyfriend and girlfriend earlier, but here they're obviously playing with the fact that they are boyfriend and girlfriend, right?
Well, not they are, but it's
There's
pushing that they're
far more
further along.
romantic
Yeah,
intention between them.
yeah, they're further along in a relationship than was set in their introductions.
I
Mm.
think that's inclined with Haley's character because she's very narrow-minded and pinpointed on what she's doing in moments. And right now, I think she's really focused to get to Seth.
Save a Kiss is very aggressive, especially through a text without a setup for the audience of she's this open with Seth.
I think it's flirtatious, and we had the scene of them trying to hang out together on New Year's Eve without supervision.
I, I don't see those as directly connected like that. Hanging out, easily a friend thing. Save a kiss for me, past that.
I
I'm
think
still
it's
thinking about
I
it.
think it's inclined with Haley's character from what we've seen of her. And I think
I
it's
don't.
enough
I don't think
context
she's that
in
direct with Seth
I think it's
up to
enough
that point.
context in the text too for Seth to go, "Oh, Haley's coming."
it so this is where it's going to get interesting because I want to touch on some brief Act 5 stuff, I guess, to talk about this because if they were a thing and their friends were in on it, it's very rude of her friends to kiss Seth in general,
Oh, I wrote in my notes, "What a bitch."
pretty much. Um,
They have a
between
whole
that
conversation
and
about how to kiss with Seth. They're like, "Who you thinking?" And they have a whole girl conversation as friends.
yeah, between that, this is before I continue. Between that, Spriggs and the lady in the musical, I'm forgetting the name with Hugh Jackman.
Oh,
Zendaya.
no,
No, he Spriggs called
the
her
siren.
Siren. Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
um,
between the Siren and this, which one
Oh
are you feeling is
God.
worse?
Oh, the siren for sure. Oh, the siren wants to tear apart a family. Uh,
Lind, something Lind or
yeah.
something.
Jenny Lynn.
Okay,
That's it.
Jenny Lind. Yeah.
Jeez.
okay.
No, Jenny Lynn was far
Going
worse.
going back to this. Uh, I think what lends to this being okay for me is because I can infer that they're trying to hide their relationship and keep it on the DL from everybody else. This is a private text she's sending him.
Hide
Yeah.
what
So
from
it's
who?
like I'm fine with that. What did you say?
Hide what from who?
Oh, her mom.
But she's not like that around her friends.
No, but she doesn't
Like
have to
in
be that
our
around her.
introductions.
I'm not okay. I don't have an issue with that. I think her friends like making fun of her because they're still trying to keep it on the DL in front of them. So like it's more like they're doing it for Seth's guy friends. It feels like in that opening scene, they're whatever. um, so I don't really have an issue with them jumping to flirtations because it's definitely implied that they have feelings for each other.
I think what sells me the most is that every instance where she's brought it up to her mom about what she wants to do for New Year's Eve is never about her friends. It's always Seth. She's focused
Well, I'm not
on Seth.
questioning she cares about Seth. That's what I'm
No,
saying.
I think that plays more to her romantic interest in him for the text message.
And I do think she's romantically interested in him. That's not my. They're playing off that they're friends. They're not in a relationship.
I agree.
And if their first push to being a romance is "I want to kiss you" over text, that doesn't seem right. That feels like a step has been missed.
Crimson, it
Sounds like
sounds like
teenagers to me.
you don't kiss your friends on New Year's Eve. Is that what we're getting at
You're
here?
right. That is something I haven't done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Crimson. Whenever I'm in town during New Year's, I'll kiss you.
All right, bring the lip gloss.
Hey, save a kiss for me.
I'll
Oh
bring the
my.
chapstick.
It's cherry flavored. Want a taste?
Yeah, I can see where you're getting at, Crimson. They're teenagers and it works for me in that sense because it's what it comes down to a lot these days is over text. That's what happens,
She's also in a rush.
and she's also in a rush. That's true. uh, I don't remember whose point that was. Is that yours, Crimson?
Yeah.
Sure was. I'll go.
Alright. Yeah.
I like a mix of stories they do is Elise scening in the elevator to Jensen scening for practice, or I guess to the masquerade group, because he's singing to Laura and she's singing to Randy, but it's singing the same songs because she's the backup singer. And I like that overlap usage used there.
Yeah. It would be convenient if it's happening at the same time. I don't believe it's happening at the same time, but it's still well edited together and I appreciate it. I will jump to the Anchovies team and Yam Liars team. Um, I quite enjoy I guess the sort of the truce, I guess they come to when they're looking through the windows at each other and they're going to focus on their respective like families. I like that takes a back seat. I would have probably would have been pulled out of the movie if that had continued. I guess.
If they were tooth and nail to the
Uh,
very end.
yeah, and then they didn't focus on the families right. If they didn't start focusing on the families like when it mattered, that would have been too comical and like out of character for me.
What
Considering how mostly grounded this film was supposed to be.
Yeah, what I wish they played more into and definitely filmed better was showing that the Yam Liars family had two other kids, because those kids appeared out of nowhere, but for then Griff, the anchovy team, to look over and see like, oh, he has more of a family, he has more need for this money, to imply that onto him, I think would work better.
Yeah, I agree with that. They kind of come out of nowhere.
But the kids come out of nowhere and it doesn't show Griff seeing the kids to even know that.
What do you mean?
Like, he doesn't see a
sees them
family already
presumably.
established on the other side. It's both kind of shown that they're both a couple having a child, like one child. Not knowing if they have like a whole family to care for or take care of in any way of their families, but it's shown to the audience, to us, that that side has two more kids and this is going to be their third kid. So they have more
Well, I mean,
expenses to pay for, which I think would have been played better if, James of the Yam Liar side had his kids with him when he went over to check Seth Meyers, the anchovy side, for him to incline like, oh, he needs it more to take the high ground of saying, 1205, which I think is a lie, to say that so he can get the money.
Mm-hmm.
By what they have in the movie, I think that would have, again, just a tighter fit of decision.
Yeah, and I don't like as well. Again, like you said, the kids just teleporting out of nowhere, which is weird because you see them together by themselves all the time. So it would be something to see the kids at any point before then.
Yeah, it's not like they were dropped off by a babysitter. They're just in the room.
Yeah, they just kind of appear, which is my one of my bigger issues for the driving force behind that. Uh, I will jump to. I think I've alluded to it a few times. Claire and Brendan get some peace and quiet together while the ball is being worked on, and there's a throwaway line with regards to Claire talking about a guy that she once met, and she regrets telling Brendan about that because he pokes a little bit of fun at her about that. I think this is the first obvious red herring that they. This was at least the biggest red herring for me that they threw out of who's Sam's potential other lady was. Um,
Absolutely.
Yes, but this one actually has a slight setup to the red herring, like a possibility.
yeah, it's a red herring. My issue with this setup is it's because it amounts to nothing. It feels like it's just here for
Oh,
that
absolutely.
purpose of being here red heading. Uh, when it could have been a reference to her father in some way, you know.
Yeah, if they tighten the writing.
They tighten the writing. Like it could because there's a way they could do this without it necessarily being a red herring. It could just be her like, talking about because they're talking about regrets, and then she's like, yeah, it's like I do have like that. I do have one big regret, and then we could just cut away. We don't really need to see her confirm what it is. Just leave it more opaque than the obvious red herring of it being who the fuck Sam is going to end up with.
Yeah, I think that would make it a little bit better.
Or if they played it off like there's three girls who have all kind of said this red herring line of like, oh yeah, last year this guy, or something along those vein, and it shows a scene of the first girl meeting the guy, and then like Claire seeing Stan, her dad, and then a next one of like another thing, and then we see the reveal of the third one being the third one for Sam. Because then it could have been playing off to the audience. It's like, oh, which one of these three is it?
I can see how that could work. The problem is, I think the film would need to be lean a little bit more into the comedic aspect, I guess, for that to land tonally.
I don't know if it
That
needed to
makes
be
sense.
comedic. Because Stan and Claire
Uh,
doesn't have to be comedic at all. Because Stan thinks everyone hates him. Claire could play it off like there's regrets about someone she knew last New Year's, which in context would be her dad. I don't think that has to be funny in any mean.
okay, maybe funny wasn't the right word. Um, I think okay, I'm just gonna leave it as a blanket statement. I think that could work. I think they need to tweak a few things in order to make it work.
Absolutely.
Was Halle Berry a candidate?
Oh,
For
she could have been if they had a line for it.
they have a line for it. It's just like I've got like
I've got
a New Year's
plans.
date or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I got plans. Like the plans is referenced like she could have been. So I do think she's a
Oh,
red
I guess
herring
so.
as
Yeah.
well, until she sits down in the office with the either the recording, but it's actually live video footage.
I think that is
Yeah.
live footage, especially
Yeah,
because it
I
has to cut off.
Yeah.
yeah
Yeah, I was leaning it was her because she's kind of just a background character in this, and that would be an interesting connection of her to someone else other than Stan. But they
yeah.
didn't go that route.
Especially Stan kind of playing off the importance of what New Year's means to him, to get Amy, the nurse, to understand her importance of New Year's, which is what Sam's thought is towards it. That could have been
Hmm.
connected very well.
But no, she gets some random video conference thing that isn't really supported by anything. Just it's just there.
It's there to add in another celebrity.
Yeah. I think that scene it was very stiff. Like I got all the emotion from Halle Berry, but I didn't really get anything from the person on the other side.
Oh, from Common? No.
Yeah. And I know I get he's military, he'd be more stern, but something like
I couldn't tell if it
more
was green
emotional would have
screened
been nice.
or something.
Yeah.
It was only his mouth moving.
It was very odd.
He needed like someone to walk by in the background or something. It did look
Well,
staged.
I think
Uh,
that's the issue writers having with it.
yeah. Kinda. My issue is just that I didn't really feel the emotional weight of their reunion, however brief it was.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Halle Berry dresses up in a fancy, sexy-looking dress for this person, the nurse. Sorry.
Oh, you look beautiful.
Yeah,
Did I
yeah,
deliver
and
that well?
no, just like anything from the other, like something more emotionally resonant, I guess, from the person in the video feed would have worked
You know, the
better.
thing I brought up earlier, like the multiple ladies that could have been the Sam's girl, and they're all red herrings and playing off. I guess that this is kind of it. It just feels very weak.
Yeah, a little. It's a shame. Like it works. It's just a shame that with how it is.
It's so weak I didn't pinpoint it when I asked my question. I'll say that.
It sounded like it when I brought it up. You're like, oh yeah, I guess that is something.
Yeah.
This is where I went because this is the act where Paul takes Ingrid to like the stage to be amazed or whatever.
Yes.
Mhm.
I think this is the one. This is the one where I'm like, I would have. This is where I was starting to get like a little on the repetitive side because I had your issue Crimson where I was like, all right, this is cool. I need to see how he's still getting into these places. Like it would be cool to see him have a connection here, or
Well,
charm his way in,
that was his
or
favor with Sarah Jessica Parker, wasn't it?
With Kim,
oh,
with his
this one.
sister?
I thought that's he
Oh,
had the phone
maybe.
call with her asking for a favor, and then cut to
Oh,
this.
That could be
okay.
it.
Then yeah, that works.
Yeah.
Then yeah, then I have no issue.
Yeah, that's
She asked
pretty sure
what
what
Haley's
that's for.
whereabouts are, and he asked for the favor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then we cut to the theater thing.
yeah, I'm totally okay with that then.
Oh, that makes totally sense because she's like a
She's
costume
the
designer.
costume
Yeah,
person.
she's the
Yeah.
costume
Yeah.
designer. Yeah, makes perfect sense. No issue with that scene. It was just labeled as another convenience thing that happens to work. So I'm totally fine with that.
That
Uh,
works. There we go. The importance of one line.
honestly, yeah. Crimson, got a point?
Mr. Buellerton. I
Yeah.
wish I could say I saw that coming from the name, but I did not. I was not expecting that cameo with Mr. Buellerton. And I don't know. It's kind of definitely a shoehorn celebrity appearance. There's no payoff with him. He doesn't come back later like, well, you did it, Claire. Thank you. Good job. See you next year. You kept your job. There's no. He's just here for the cameo and to
Is
put added pressure on her that she already has. So
is
whatever.
Matthew Broderick what you expected Kaminsky to be?
A larger celebrity, yeah, that would be a better one. Yeah. So I don't know if Buellerton's removable, but it's not fully realized on what that character could be.
I guess so, but
He just adds pressure to her she already has.
Oh, he's a
And
character?
it's a
I
nice
didn't.
I don't
well,
know.
it's a nice nod.
It's a
Yeah,
nice nod, but that's doesn't mean it's necessary.
No,
yeah. My reaction, like, all right, that's funny. Still, not needed.
but I got another name in it. Not just a
Yeah, no name.
character name, but another celebrity.
Bueller.
Yeah, a movie moment. Again, another one is right when Randy and Elise are gonna kiss. The elevator works.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I expected that.
Oh, absolutely. I
Uh,
do like that she didn't just run off though, and they have a conversation before that they leave. So it's not
Yeah.
like it's not like CW drama, like the moment's completely
Well,
dead. They still
yeah,
talk a bit.
but they get a little drama with the Cinderella thing. Oh, you left your bracelet.
Yeah. Well, he was at that point he was looking for an excuse, and
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
and the
go ahead.
the landlord guy or whoever that was saying he checked the security tapes. I found
Oh,
amusing.
Jim
Yeah.
Belushi.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
That might be the wildest cameo, I think, in this movie.
I'll check the video.
The old woman. I don't know the actress's name, although I know I've seen her before. The
Mrs.
closing the elevator
Lifflander.
gate. Yeah, Miss Lifflander. I thought that was funny. The way she's just slowly and angrily closing the gate. Sprinks got a point.
Something I did like, which I believe is being taught. It's Jensen and is it Jensen, or are they just talking about Jensen? Shoot, I didn't write down exactly who the two people were talking. It might be Claire and Brendan, but when they're talking in Times Square, I think looking for Jensen, there's the crowd behind them, and when they in what they're saying in their dialogue, the crowd is cheering to their praises and stops cheering to their negatives. So I think that was just a very clever background detail that they did with that dialogue.
It works because the guy's doing the wave, right? Like she walks out and says, "You need to get them to do the wave, distract them."
That's later. This is
That's
just
afterwards?
them, just a crowd of people waiting for New Year's. But I think like Brendan says like, "Oh, we found Jensen," and the crowd behind it is like cheering, and then she goes, "Oh, where is it?" It's like he's around here somewhere, and the crowd stops. So it's something stronger than that, but I thought it was very nicely done.
Mhm.
A little corny, but
Because of Randy and 5B having actually fairly good chemistry and a strong connection, I do like that Randy shows up for her show because it's not his thing, but he's going to go there just for her, you know?
and he's lied his
Mhm.
way to get there.
I was a
And he's
drummer
yeah,
for Jensen.
Yeah.
Jensen's drummer.
Uh,
No proof of credentials, like she had a badge to show she was a singer. He just shows up.
it it works because she's not fully on stage yet, though he is in the like it's not quite like in the it's past the restricted like line, but it's not that deep in, so I bought it a little more like it's just a security guard, not a like an official person, if that makes sense.
I don't know.
So
Is it
it worked, but it's still a little bit convenient that she again happens to catch her in the right place.
the fact that they established that she has a badge for entry, uh, required for entry, and he doesn't, and still makes entry
Yeah, I think he
based off a lie that
said
anybody could say in in the area.
yeah, but I think Randy's line he said was like they thought I was the drummer, and he just agreed to it. He didn't like tell. It didn't
Did
sound
he
like
say
he
he was the
told.
drummer?
No,
He went with the lie to get
he
in.
went with the implication that he
Yeah,
was the drummer. They just assumed he was.
but it seems
So
the
it's
security guards thought
convenient. I
him.
won't deny
Yeah.
that, but it works.
Is it dated for 2011 to name a dog iPod?
No.
uh,
I
I
mean, dated as I guess no one
I
uses
mean,
iPods anymore.
tell me you don't love your dog without telling me you don't love your dog. That's what I take it as.
But in 2011, people did use iPods still.
That is true.
But if
Yeah,
you're saying it
but
was dated back then, I don't think it was dated back then.
not of using an iPod. It's just I went the dog's name is iPod. Okay. Also, there's a big. It looked like a product placement by how big it was in the shot, but Sabaro's Pizza.
Yeah, and that was a
It was
pretty
massive.
on the nose one.
At timestamp 1 hour 18 minutes 31 seconds.
Maybe want to get pizza. Funny enough, actually, I think I had pizza the night I watched this, so maybe that doubled. Maybe that worked. I don't know.
Crimson, what's better, Little Caesars or Sabaros?
I haven't had Sabaros.
Okay, cool.
So
Little
Savaros is
Caesars is
better.
better.
Yeah, you don't have proof. I've had proof. I've eaten both. So Savaros is better. um,
I don't really have anything else to say.
I'm looking at my last bit of notes. I think this scene. I think I talked about it. I think the scene with Jetson here is a bit misplaced at the when he's waiting on the car, feeling mopey, unwilling to kind of perform right now at the moment. Um, it works, but I think again it's just missing something to push in there because I don't know, something's off about it, and I think it has to do with the because of how like the Laura's relationship with him is paced. Like he could still feel mopey and terrible about it, but he already performed like with that being an issue. You know what I'm saying?
True, I suppose. But that was before he heard the whole speech by Claire, which he directly references in this Mopey bit at. Because that's what got him thinking
Well,
about
no,
second chances,
his performance is already
right?
after the speech. Well, maybe I guess is what you mean. So like the he performed earlier after her speech, and then this time by now he's happened to catch a side of it. I guess
Mm, maybe.
it's again,
I don't
it's
know.
not a character break for me. This is just a slight, as you put it, Crimson, it's just a little bit of a rearrangement.
Mm,
It works. They're upping his feelings and drama in order to like get this scene out. Um,
I see what you're saying,
uh,
Ryder. I'm with you. I get it. I think.
all right. Uh, Sam arrives at the music function. I like that his mom is a character we already saw earlier in a brief minute, where she was giving like the introduction to Jetson and the party itself.
mhm. Yeah, she was
Um,
set up earlier.
yeah. Um, and I, uh, I guess I like his line of dialogue. I'm not going to give a long speech. Socrates gave long speeches, and his friends killed him. That to me was a hilarious joke.
I'm
Well
sure it
landed.
was.
Yeah,
Good opener.
yeah, landed me very very well.
I'm
But
glad.
I don't really have any notes on his speech,
I
so
like that he talks about his dad when his dad's not around anymore, because that's what people know.
Yeah, because the dad gave the speeches, presumably.
mhm.
I'm
But
also
yeah,
slightly surprised we don't see another shoehorn celebrity of like a photo of the family and the dad or something.
Yeah.
Like the
I
dad's
guess
like
we'll
Tom
consider ourselves lucky.
Selleck or something. Like,
Steven Seagal. Yeah. Uh,
well, maybe it's got to be someone older
uh,
than Josh Duhamel. But
Spriggs, how's your notes looking for this act?
ooh, Bim and Baron.
All right, then, unless anybody has anything about Sam's speech specifically, we can move on right into Act 5.
I'm going to move on.
I'm good.
On the topic of celebrities, though, one that I found being weird was Piper's mom, whatever, the one
I
that was stalking around.
I don't. That was some joke that did not hit with me. That was weird.
What was it
I
supposed
looked
to be?
her up. This is the only movie she's been in. This lady,
Okay.
she's not a celebrity.
She
So that
reminded me of Marty from Christmas of the Cranks, but way worse.
I'm delighted to say I don't know who Marty is, and I don't remember.
Oh,
that's Santa.
As I said, I'm delighted that I don't remember.
No, yeah, Piper's mom in this when she kissed someone during New Year's, I thought that was Sarah Jessica Parker, and then it wasn't.
no. But
But
then she's like creepily eyeing Seth and Haley. It was,
yeah, not her kid.
yeah,
She's
very
just a gossip
strange.
girl, I guess. I don't know. Wants gossip on her daughter's kids,
Oh, I
her
just realized
friends,
something.
And Seth just goes like, "Who is that woman?" Like Seth doesn't even
and
recognize
then
that's
that's
a
it.
friend's mom.
That's the end of Haley and Seth's storyline. That's the end of Piper's mom. That's the last thing. Who is that woman? Done.
Yep, pretty weird.
What did you
Um,
realize, Ryder?
yeah, I totally, I don't know why I just spaced on this, but when De Niro is watching the speech earlier in the film, that's he's watching it because it's his daughter.
Yeah,
I don't know
Good
why.
point.
I mean, like I knew that was a thing. I just completely forgot to connect those dots. So I'm just kind of in that mode right now. Like, oh, that's actually kind of cool. He
I
has
make
more
the
than one
midnight.
reason to watch the ball drop because he knows his daughter's running the show.
Good stuff from him.
In this
Uh,
act, towards the beginning, when Jensen's giving his performance, there's a shot of like a lady on stage, and the security guards trying to get her off to kind of just like play into like, oh, Jensen, big name. While the camera's panning around to show that, the security guard is helping her get up onto stage to then get her off the stage.
Hmm. Yeah, I saw that as well. Not great.
Rip.
Yeah.
Also, very short
Boo.
song.
Thankfully, it's not a very good one.
Not
Jetson's
really.
definitely not my kind of musician. So,
No, Jensen,
I
no.
like
Bon
Bon Jovi,
Jovi,
but
absolutely,
Jetson,
yeah.
no. Yeah.
um, let's see. Paul and Zac Efron stay behind to kiss Michelle Pfeiffer and Ingrid.
What a guy.
What a guy. Yeah,
But he finished the list.
that's true. He did. I enjoyed that, I guess, because that to me was the one of the bigger themes of the movie was just trying to be kind to people, you know. So I guess I really enjoyed how that played off.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't go to his party because of that for a while. Who knows what he could have missed because he stayed
Yeah.
around.
Did he knew? Well, it's playing off that he did, but how did he know where she was?
Scan the crowd. It's convenient.
It's
Well,
certainly
you
convenient
see,
because Haley's mom took forever trying to track her down in that crowd.
Well, she's
yeah,
in the first row, and he saw a TV and saw her right there. So
maybe.
Did that actually
I
happen, or are
mean,
you just saying that?
I'm saying that's a fix, but they don't show that
Oh,
as
okay.
anything.
yeah, she her being in the front row helps a lot. So she could have seen that, but yeah, don't see it. Um, my joke was, oh, he broke into Finch's apartment and borrowed
Oh,
the machine.
person of interest. Got it.
Yeah,
Yeah, referenced twice.
yeah,
Woo.
I know.
I love it.
Oh, you do.
I'm sure you do. uh, I uh, I like the reveal, I guess, that Laura finds out Jetson was the one who asked her to cater, like the one that was refused to play until she catered for the party. I kind of like that Jetson never is the one to bring that up. You know
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't want to use it as leverage on her or anything.
exactly.
Just a kind gesture, and that's it. No
Mhm.
motive behind it.
I think that to me was a very very good addition.
Mhm. I agree. Absolutely.
Definitely a movie moment. Both Claire and Sam stop sprinting at the same clock at the same time to check the time, and then run past each other.
That was pretty funny because
It was funny.
they don't recognize each other whatsoever,
Yeah, they just look at each other and then keep running. The
except on
bloopers at the end
the
were kind of
yeah,
funny.
the blooper was funny.
The bloopers is what everyone was expecting. I guess that was the anticipation.
I did like that because up to that point it was obvious it was going to be those two, and then it wasn't. Even though Ryder, you're saying it was a clear red herring earlier, I did expect them to do it because it was obvious.
I do.
Uh,
I guess I like that. I
so
like the red herring giving between the two of them, but it plays off that it's not them in the moment where they're together, and it's not
yeah,
like what happened with Halle Berry.
yeah, it's not a wasted red herring. They subvert your expectations.
Yeah, that
Yes,
both of
there's
them
a
were talking
twist.
about two different people.
Yeah. Um, I do think like because it make the what I don't like about the red herring is it just makes her line of dialogue from earlier clunkier.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
that's what I don't like about the red herring. I think it could still work. They just need to clean up the dialogue of that scene. As we keep saying, it just needs to be a bit tighter.
Tighter. Yeah, it's a very loose movie.
Uh,
Uh, Sarah. Um, now I'm blanking on her name. The actress's name was.
Sarah Jessica Parker, who played Kim.
Sarah Jessica Parker. Yeah. Once again, another convenience of finding her daughter, and this one I'd say is worse than the train one.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She found her right when Haley saw Seth kiss. All of that at the same time. Very convenient.
I agree. Especially since Haley was already on a train, so then how'd she... Well, I guess... Well, no, because Haley's constantly looking for Seth, and she's looking for Haley. So they're both constantly moving, but Haley took the whole train ride ahead of Kim, so...
And Kim went to a bar, and
Yeah, there's a
detours.
lot more difference in time of layout where they would be, but
Yeah. I really like, and it's kind of heart wrenching. I like that De Niro confuses who the nurse. I don't think I touched on this. I don't know if that was last act or this one,
I
but
think it was the last
uh,
act with Amy. Yeah.
yeah, I like that De Niro confuses who she is. It's very gut wrenching, and definitely gave me. Well, funny enough, the scene that I think about now a lot when it comes to stuff like this is actually the Peggy scene from Winter Soldier, where
Oh,
she
yeah.
forgets who Steve is in the middle of a conversation with him. I think this kind of has a similar vibe to me, where it's gut wrenching in that particular way.
Yeah.
Uh,
Especially since
yeah,
this
big
is his
parallel.
last day. He dies, right?
That's
We
the
don't see him die.
implication.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. We don't see him die on the screen, but we definitely see her
She has
mourning.
his belongings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Claire's
Sad.
reaction.
So we don't know if he died at the hospital or he died on the roof and she dragged him back. I guess on that front.
Oh, what a guilt. She killed him. But it was his dying wish.
Yeah. So it would have been interesting actually if he died on the roof with her, but we don't know.
Yeah, I mean, in either case, we see her mourning. I think that would still
Yeah.
make her mourn and traumatize her.
Mhm.
Is it? What is it called? Uh, is it? It's not uncaring. Is it too? Oh, what's the word?
For who? Claire?
Nonchalant.
Yeah, is it too nonchalant, I guess, of the nurses to invite her in to see new babies after her father just died?
No.
I,
It
I think
can
it's weird.
it can work in a tonal way, and because it does work in a tonal way, like the end of one life, many new ones. There's something here to work with, but I don't know if it was like
It's too loose.
it's too loose. Yeah. I think if one of the nurses stopped to kind of have a talk with her and they realized like what was kind of eating away at her, just that guilt, or like how, or they might have figured out in that conversation, realized that this might be a way to help pull you out of that hole that you dug for yourself. Just coming here to experience the joy of this with us, seeing all the newborns, because there's got to be an element of joy to that for the nurses, and that could play into her character a bit too. But like I said, it just kind of disjointed and it's too loose.
Earlier, much like when James of the Yam Liars team, his kids appeared out of nowhere. When Sam's waiting for this mystery woman to show up, a champagne bottle appears in his hand out of nowhere.
Yeah, because obviously it's New Year's Eve, and obviously stores are open at midnight for him to pick up a champagne bottle. Oh wait.
No, I didn't pick up on that, but that would certainly be a continuity error.
I mean,
It's
the whole time he ran to the location to see that it's closed, but he's running there. He's not carrying anything. And then next we see him, he's sitting there with a bottle in his hand.
the funny thing is, it's a very easy fix because he was coming from a party where his mom is the host. He could have just asked for a bottle.
Absolutely. If he put it in his jacket pocket or something.
Yeah. Since I'm on the scene, I actually quite like how overwhelmed Sam is by just, uh, I guess the prospect of just the too much attention, but not the kind of attention that he wants.
Oh, of the ladies on him? Yeah.
Yeah. So like, there's
That was a bit over
obviously,
the top.
What was it,
um,
Alyssa and Wendy?
yeah, it's over the top, but it happens once, so I'm okay with it in the sense that it's just getting the point across really quickly. Like they're clearly into him, but they're more into him for like a let's just have a party and have fun, not a
Well,
proper
he's
relationship
also
kind of feeling.
That
no,
they
not a
tried
proper
last
relationship,
year.
but he's also a big name of the party. Like he gave
Yeah,
the speech, so he's an important person kind of thing. So laying into
mhm,
that like fame and wealth, maybe like attraction of who Sam is. But I like that we've seen Sam up to this point not have that at all with ladies, and it's not like the person who started with all like his arm around women to get to the point of like I'm not into that life anymore. It started with like just him over this feeling of a New Year's lady who he really liked, and the wrestling with himself up to this point. And it's just another scene of him fighting against it.
yeah,
Well,
and
there
it's
was a line in the church in the opening with him where it was referenced that he sleeps around a lot.
or he at least used to.
Yeah. So
Oh,
I
well,
think,
okay, I
there
see.
was a line for that.
I thought
yeah,
that was played more onto Rory, the groom there. Like, oh, he's wed or going to be wed. No more doing this. And I guess that like
yeah,
that
he
said
turns it
onto
back and says, "Guess
Rory,
you have to
but
do it for us,"
yeah, but that's also like speaking to Sam and that. Okay,
Yeah. So yeah, that works. I think the implication, at least if I'm going to read into the romance here, idea of this New Year's girl, um, obviously there's a difference between just like having fun and then like making a genuine connection to someone who's also kind of just sick of like the partying and stuff like that. Just wanted to get, and you just had pizza together. That's kind of sounds to me a very like human connection to where in comparison to everything that was over the top, it works. You know, because obviously we see how over the top the girls are, how forward they are. You can kind of see now comparison that to like the one date he had with this girl at a pizza parlor, um, why it would fall short.
Hmm.
So I like that Sam's story ultimately is completed, I guess, with all of this. Even though we
Sam's
can
story
argue
is,
whether Kim is good enough for him or not.
I was going to say, Sam's story is complete. Kim's never existed.
Yeah, exactly.
I think out of all the payoffs for all these characters, Kim was the by far the worst because it felt like that wasn't what her goal was in this whole movie.
no,
Her whole goal was Haley. It
her
was
Yeah.
not overcoming her
It
fear
they
of this
never
meeting.
they
There's
never
nothing.
gave Kim the bits of like Amy or Claire of the red herring that it could be Sam, which just goes on to the. I think that's very. I think that's weak or something given because there's not an anticipation of the audience to
yeah.
know. There's
It's
just nothing given beforehand that it is her.
All
yeah.
you get is
It's like
she
uh
has a dress for a special occasion, and as an audience, know, okay, that dress is going to come into play for a special occasion. That's
yeah.
pretty much it.
There is a it kind of comes into the similar I have a similar vein when it comes to mystery movies. Um where if the director's deliberately hiding information from the audience or they deliberately change something that they've already shown like in a flashback scene or a previous scene, it means that the audience was never supposed to know.
Ah,
Like so the audience is not along for the ride. If that makes sense. I kind
I
of view it in a similar vein to that.
I think I know what movie you're exampling to.
I wonder
Starts with a K.
who. Could be.
Yeah,
Uh
love when they introduce a character so far into the movie.
yeah, but that being said, you guys talking kind of made me think about this. What if Kim was the person who was supposed to go see De Niro?
And
It doesn't fix her character, but I think it helps because it explains a lot of the selfish aspects of like constantly pushing people away. They have that parallel going with each other.
I think it
Um,
would be again. It just needs to be tighter to play into why it would be anyone for her to go to.
yeah, like I said, I think that work. Yeah, Kim needs work no matter what happens. I think I can slide her in more easily for being the one to go to De Niro though than I can for Sam because it makes a little bit more. It makes a little more sense on the surface. you still have to tweak things.
So you would have preferred Stan and Kim with the other side of Sam and Claire?
Yeah, it may be just based on like what we have. I think that again, surface level as Kim is, I think she would work better in that role.
Mm, uh,
Again, you have to tweak her no matter what. Um,
Possibly.
yeah. Anything you want to add there, Crimson? I think you were trying to get something in.
I was just saying that I don't really see a connection that you could connect between Kim and Stan, but
You
I
can't really do
just
that
don't
for
think
any character
Kim's
for
good in
her.
any way.
I
So
guess
Yeah.
a little stronger sense slightly to her being more connected to Sam than Stan is that she's a single mom.
I guess, yeah. Um, I'm near managing my notes here, fellas. How are y'all looking?
I have one last thing.
Well then, you go first, Springs, and I'll get my
Last thing I
one
have in my
together
notes
for
is
you.
during the bloopers and the credits. It's a funny plug to give birth to Valentine's Day.
yeah, that was actually pretty funny. It's twins.
That's funny. Yeah, all right. I'll take that. I accept that. Crimson.
So the uh, sardine team or anchovies, not anchovies. They said the time was 12:05, and the doctor was like 12:05. It is. Can you falsify that document of birth?
Yeah,
Considering
Because
it
that's what
wasn't
it
written
sounded
down,
like they just did.
in real life, no. But with this doctor who's not taking sides, I think it's something she allowed.
She's
I
not
But
taking
then again,
sides.
it
She would have
doesn't
just written
say.
down the actual time.
But they don't say the time of the other group. They just think.
12:04 was
Oh, it was
the.
12. Oh, okay.
That's why he said 12:05. So the others one definitive.
Okay, I thought he just said
And
12:05, and he's like, "Oh, thank you."
no, Yam said 12:04.
Okay.
to answer the question, I don't think so. Having been to a hospital many times, it can happen by screw ups, but I don't know if they ever intentionally do that.
I'll tell you, giving birth,
And
there'd
also,
be far more doctors,
yeah, and
not one in
also,
a nurse.
well, it is New Year's Eve, but also they, oh, what's it called? I don't know many competitions where that would be necessary.
Of getting the time right.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, there's a
for
big competition.
for pregnancy, I mean.
Yeah,
That
I
is
mean, it would have been
that's
interesting if it was shown that neither of them won. Some third
Oh,
party
that would
baby
be
won.
something, and that could have thrown in another celebrity couple.
Yeah, like Steve Harvey or something. I don't know.
Steve Harvey. Wow.
No, at this point in time, my celebrity couple of choice probably would have been Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, just to fuck with everybody.
Oh, that would have been
That would be
something.
pretty good, but that would have been half the budget.
Could have gone
Yeah.
with Chrissy Teigen and John Legend.
Um, so it it works, I think, Crimson, but I get your issue with it. It's a nitpick.
Yeah,
It's to show that they did the kind gesture and imply that they had actually won, but they give it up.
yeah, it was more for character than anything.
Yeah. So I guess technically plot takes a hit for that one because it's good character stuff.
Yeah, and Spranks, I brought it up earlier with Amy, and I didn't get to expand on it. My thought process of it being a pre-recorded thing because of the point you made where the guy doesn't really react. I thought she was just reenacting events to go with an old recording
That
to
seems a lot
to
sadder.
feel better. That's what
Yeah.
I thought was happening. I'm like, that's good stuff, and then that's not what it was.
No.
I was actually let down. I like the idea of that.
Because
But they
then
didn't do
she
that.
could have played that tape anytime.
Well, I mean, New Year's. But
Well, true, but it's like she didn't have to rush to get to a video call kind of thing. I think it would have been a lot slower for her to press play or start that than getting in the room and getting things fixed and making sure it's all good on time because they have a limited amount of time.
She wouldn't want to break the illusion she's going for, but that's just how I thought it was going to go, and then it's not what they did. Well, that's disappointing.
There was potential there.
There was potential. Is there anything else? Did we cover pretty much all the storylines going on?
That grandpa character on the RV was quite horny.
Yeah. Was it naked photos?
I think that was his character trait. You boinker?
Did you boinker? Yeah.
It really feels like that, huh?
Yeah.
Lines he said.
Something I was really questioning about this entire movie, could they not curse? It feels like there were so many lines where they were about to, and then it was either interjected with something else or they stopped talking or something would occur. It happened multiple times with multiple characters.
Family film, so I don't know. They just wanted to keep that low.
Okay.
Let's see. I guess Paul and Ingrid went to the party together. Something I guess we didn't really talk too much on, other than Randy was absent, and that would have been a good thing to.
Yeah, what if?
Yeah, honestly, yeah. One of those things that just kind of felt a little bit lost.
So, do you think Paul and Ingrid are going to be a thing, or they're just good friends now?
Just good friends. That's where I am.
Was that a serious question?
Sure.
Okay. I honestly didn't think about it. I just took it as good friends.
Okay. Well, there you go. That's the answer.
I take it that's where you lean, Crimson?
Yeah. That's where I'm leaning. And I guess my last point that I could think of is the ball getting fixed. He's saying just one more test, and it was the right one. The last one was the right one.
Of course.
It's a bit of a movie moment since we've been saying that a lot.
Especially for this film.
This movie's chock full of movie moments.
But hey, we got our bookend. We got our horse-drawn carriage. Opening shot to horse-drawn carriage for Kim being delivered to Sam.
Yeah.
Is there one in the opening?
Yeah, it's the first thing you see in the first visual, I think.
Oh, okay. I guess one last thing actually is
you
Claire promoting what's his face Kaminsky. Kind of just like a shoehorn thing to me. Just like yeah, promote him. I got to do stuff.
I agree. Shoehorned.
It was nice.
Kind of weak. I mean, it was nice of her, but she was very passionate about this thing.
Honestly, a lot of that just comes across from how revered he is. So that's what supports this as a concept, mostly. But I still, I guess, would like, something more for it. Make it a little bit more meaty on terms of like the character stuff.
Just because he knows how to turn on a ball doesn't mean he knows how to coordinate an entire event.
Yeah, he does.
That doesn't really correlate.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And yeah, I think I don't have anything else either, other than I like seeing the shot of Morgan sitting in her chair by herself and going through her dad's stuff and seeing a picture of the two of them. Like that's good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a bit of a letdown. I guess it's I don't know if it's a subversion, but to find that the pizza restaurant was closed, or had closed down when he gets there. Sam.
Yeah, I think that's good actually, because that means he didn't obsess over it and keep up, because he learned in that moment. But it's also another up to the down of Sam. But it was one that was out of his control.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And with that, I believe I am out of notes. So, how are you looking, Sprinks?
Oh, I'm out. But I do have questions.
All right. I guess we'll fire off questions before we jump into ratings.
Yes, because these questions could change the ratings for all we know.
Mhm.
So, who is your favorite actor in the movie?
Within the film or isolated?
Isolated.
Um, Catherine Hagel, I guess.
Okay.
So they're not favorite actor in the movie, but favorite actor
You
like
actor that
th-
was in this movie
themselves.
that is your favorite.
Robert De Niro.
Okay. Uh, I'm probably also gonna say probably also Robert De Niro out of the whole cast. Okay, and then the follow-up question. I got a couple. Who do you think acted the best in the movie?
Robert De Niro.
Uh, hmm. It would be between Robert De Niro or Michelle Pfeiffer.
She would be my runner-up.
Okay. I'd probably say Robert De Niro, and my runner-up would be Halle Berry.
Should be my tertiary.
Tertiary, yeah, that works for me as well.
What was the best story to follow?
I'm biased. I like romance, and I think they handled Randy and 5B very well.
Randy in 5B, and then would be Stan, because the Claire thing's kind of just added towards the end, which makes it good, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah, same thing. Randy and 5B would be first, and then it would be Stan's story.
Okay, I think my number one would be Sam. Like how you said, writer with the romance thing. I like Sam's romance connection of what's driving him.
Yeah, Sam would be my pick for 3. The problem is just the other half of that story is absent.
Doo-doo.
Yeah, which is fine. That's why I like Sam. The focus point of
Specifically
Sam. Yeah,
Sam's. Yeah. Okay.
the
That makes more
mystery of who
sense.
the woman is, I think, is all good of Sam. The Kim connection, that's I find that a different story that interlinks towards the end, but which goes into the next question. What was the worst story to follow?
Haley.
Yeah. Haley. Haley and Kim's.
Okay, also in agreement, Haley. An overall question: was there ever a story with enough time dedicated to it to care about it?
Stands.
And then Randy and 5B. I think the benefit of Randy and 5B is because they're stuck in one place together.
Okay.
And then for my third, it would be uh, Michelle Pfeiffer and Zac Efron.
Okay. I think would be Jensen and Laura. I think there's enough to Jensen's care of Laura throughout his character.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think the what prevents them from being in top 3 for me is just the inconsistencies with Laura's character, and then the realignment that happens for both of them later on. So there's bumps on that road for me that
Yeah.
kind of turned me off, I guess, from that being on my top 3.
And then the last question I have is, which we've touched on a little, is anyone on the removed character list from this film?
The dude sous chef guy.
Sunil?
Sure.
Sunil.
And
That's his name.
I think ludicrous, but you guys disagree. So those are the two I think, and maybe Bueller, Buellerton.
Buellerton,
But I don't
I
know if he
think is
counts as a character to me.
that's the great point. I do like his cameo appearance.
I don't think he counts as a character.
If he showed up again, I would call him a character, and I would also put him on the movable list.
Yeah.
But right now, as
But
an Easter egg, I think he's fine.
yeah.
So I'm also on sous chef.
I don't know anyone else who to remove. Maybe
I mean, I can.
Piper's mom?
And she's not a character.
That's not a character.
She's less of a character than Buellerton.
That's just a joke. This is a joke in the background. Uh, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I've talked about removing storylines, but we've already covered that.
Yeah, kind of covered that a little bit earlier. Is that your last question, Springs?
It was.
Then
And then
we
I've
shall
got
now.
one.
Alright.
Who's on the poster of this movie?
Oh, great question. You mean the two people
Because
in the street?
yeah, I don't know who they are. I don't think they're anybody in this movie.
Great question. Um, there's no one in this movie who has the hair of the lady.
No,
Nope.
I think they're just two random people they took for a photo.
I think that the guy is supposed to be Sam, but that's it. I don't even think he looks that
Yeah,
much
but
like
that's
him.
not Kim at all.
Yeah, exactly. It's not.
Which is very interesting because with like Love Actually and uh, Valentine's Day, those posters are littered with the celebrities. This
Well,
is with two people that aren't even in the movie.
well, there is another poster that has like a grid of the celebrity faces, but the
Yeah,
poster
but
you're
Love
referring
Actually
to
also has
is
two
these two.
versions
Yeah.
that are a grid system, and then there's one of a heart with all the faces too. Oh, weird.
Yeah, I
Uh,
guess I'm with Ryder that the silhouette does resemble Sam, but I haven't a clue who that lady is.
It's not. It's not the dress that she wears.
no, it is
Kim
not.
wears. Don't know. That's my
Uh,
question.
Couldn't tell you.
I'm ready.
all right.
That could have been in the facts.
Ratings. Let's start with you, Crimson.
Alrighty, I will start with my subjective first. I came through this, like I said in the beginning. The beginning was a little I wasn't
Bit
too
much.
engaged. Well, yeah, there's also that. But Stan got me hooked a little bit, kept me a little bit more engaged. The middle stuff with Laura and um, David Bowie. I'm blanking on his name now. Justin.
David Bowie?
Sorry, not David Bowie.
You can kill him later, Springs.
Bon
Okay?
Jovi.
Bon Jovi, whatever. I
Bon
said it right
Jovi,
earlier.
David Bowie. All right. Moving on.
I said it right earlier. That storyline I didn't care for, even though it was a kind of a larger focus for one of the storylines. I did like Ashton Kutcher, Randy, and 5B. I think that was good. So out of the 8-ish storylines, because we couldn't directly define, 2 of them were engaging to me. Of interest, anyways.
That's 25%.
So obviously I give it a 2.5. No, I have it at a 5. It's very safe, middle of the road. Might be one of the most middle of the road movies ever. Whatever. Objectively, I do believe what I said earlier about Haley's storyline completely being cut, and tangentially also Kim's and Sam's, because their connections to everybody else is almost non-existent. Uh, Obviously, Kim is Paul's sister for the getting into the venue for the theater performance thing. That's her connection to the larger group, and Sam's connection to the larger group is his speech at the gala, which isn't really necessary either. So to me, two big stories in this are kind of removable with minor tweaks that don't completely derail things, which I think is kind of a big thing. Um, but without removing them, Haley as a character, even though we talked fairly in depth about her, I do see her a little out of tune with what I was describing as her being more friends and maybe skipping a step with the "I love you" message thing. I'm still going to lean on that for myself. Um, Ingrid getting the tickets. I thought they were hers, but through the podcast discovered it's probably the company's. At which point I think they should have defined that she was stealing from the company more, because it kind of just plays off that it's her property to give out to Paul. So little Nick, that's not the biggest thing in the world. Uh, I agree that this movie's fast paced, definitely in the beginning to establish all these characters and storylines. There's parts where they jump around where I think it's unnecessary. Like I said, with the Tiffany's and taxi ride, it's just a lot of jumping around. Amy's storyline not having any connection to anything other than be the character, so might as well give her an end. Kind of is. It's a good end for her, but it's not really anything that meaningful to the story as a whole. And there was some other stuff, but kind of against the clock here, so I think I'll leave it at that. My score did change going into this. I had it at a 7, and now I'm at a 6.5. And I'll try to stick around for your guys' ratings, but I might dip midway.
Yo.
All right. Funny enough, my objective also changed by 0.5 points. But I'll start with my subjective too. This is gonna sound very familiar. I was waiting to care about something, waiting to latch onto something, and that didn't really happen until Rob De Niro's first scene. So very similar, I guess, experience. And I just wasn't. It was just going with the flow of it up until that scene. I'm like, okay, all right, I got to pull. In terms of storylines that I liked, I guess I technically liked 3 that I enjoyed. But the rest, it was just kind of like pick them and choose them. And then the problem is there's flaws within like some of the ones that I liked. Like this is gonna go a little bit objective. The friendship between Randy and Paul is just kind of dropped. So there's no payoff of that. We sorry. And otherwise though, I think the themes of the story that's being told were pretty decent. I could see myself watching this movie again under circumstances with my family. But subjectively, I am at a 5 as well. Pretty middle of the road movie. I could see my family dragging me to see this if it's something they want to add to our like regularly scheduled end of year movie fest. And yeah, so objectively, the plot is overly complicated the first 20 minutes because we're just constantly getting introduced to new characters, and even the side characters practically get a full introduction, which is a lot that happens. And there's definitely a lot of fluff that could be cut out with regards to that. I think the Ava and Ava's character, the way she's introduced, could have been could have been different. She didn't need practically her own scene to be introduced. Because Laura is there for a second and then Laura's gone. And I think there's an intention also, I guess, going with the plot with the red herring as far as Sam's ending is concerned. I think the red herring needs to be tweaked to be better. Or I guess in the way the Springs put it, it needs to be added on to other characters so we have a pick'ems game, kind of. And I'm also in agreement that storylines can be removed. I think Kim's storyline can be removed. As much as I actually like Sam's story, I think Kim can be removed along with Haley. They definitely add a lot of fluff to the film that isn't really necessary. As they are as characters, we talked about Kim not being a great mother. There's a lot of character traits that kind of intercede with that. We disagree, obviously, over Haley. Sam, I think, is incredibly well written for the most part. He makes a lot of sense. I think he's got some clunky dialogue at the beginning, but otherwise his story is pretty much stabilized and it's pretty consistent going from there to the end as he's battling himself, whether he wants to do it, whether he wants to commit to going to see if that girl's going to show up for him. Laura, mentioned, has some big inconsistencies, even though I like the conclusion of her story. Jetson, pretty consistent. Don't really have any issues with him. I think the only issue I have with him is he's dumbed it down a little bit for the sake of the not realizing that he should apologize. So it's minor thing, but it's there. Um, I think I don't think the police officer is removable, the chief of police with the Morgan, but I agree that he's a very minor character and there should be more to him. So as it stands, he's okay. Just gets that's it. Um, Ingrid and Paul have a lot of intermingling back and forth. Again, major issues. Sometimes it can be convenient how he gets into these places, but you can infer a fair bit of them as well. So, and then we have an explanation for at least the amazing one, which is the strings at um
The
the
theater.
theater. And as for anchovies and yams teams, they're pretty much nothing characters to me. They seem very archetypal. I do like the payoff with their story. I do think they have a lot of funny dialogue between the two groups. I think we talk about potentially damaging the husband and Anchovy's team when he starts freaking out and he's kind of made into kind of a dumb goofball. Um, and I think I'm in agreement with that. And then Randy and 5B, I don't really have any complaints with them. I think they're incredibly well written. I think their chemistry works extremely well together. And they definitely prop up, I think, the mostly flawless aspects of a story, minor story in this. They have some conveniences to them, but if like 2 or 3 conveniences is all you have comparatively, I think that's okay. And then Robert De Niro's story, I think, is the most heart wrenching. Like that's the one that tugs at your heartstrings the most. Again, incredibly well acted, and it's very simple. And while the conclusion is also quote unquote seemingly out of nowhere, um, I do think it's a nice touch the way that story pays off. So characters are across the board pretty okay. I think the plot was the worst thing about it in terms of pacing, and the world building is it's our world. Um, so I was at a 6.5. I have since dropped to a 6 because I think uh, there are some problems that were brought up that I lowered the writing a little bit for me. So I'm at a solid 6 for the film.
Okie dokie, that leaves me last. I'll go in similarity to you two. I'll start with my subjective. We said it multiple times. This movie's loose. This could have been a way more fun, engaging movie if it was tighter, which also could play into its writing of my objective, but it's just kind of of a movie, and I don't hate it. I wasn't necessarily bored of it, but it was just kind of a. There are scenes where I just go, "Who cares? What's the point?" And there are other scenes where it's like, "All right, cool," and that was kind of like the whole movie for me. Um, so I have it a 4. I guess a little lower than the two of you, but it's not abysmal. And then my objective, I think the greatest thing that could be said about this movie is it never lets you forget that it is taking place on New Year's Eve. It's very good about that. Every single scene, pretty much. But it's not like force fed down your throat about it. So I think that's very tonally done well. I think the editing's fine. The pacing is very rough and messy, but with a story of what they're trying to convey in this movie, I think it's the possibly the best they could do with what they had. Same goes for the actors. I think their performances were the best they could do with what they had. It didn't really seem like for this movie, there's not like a time where you can really flesh out something in a character. It's like the combination of everything they have done in on their screen time to get the entirety of a character, and some are better than others. I really like Josh Duhamel. I don't know why I say Durnell Duhamel. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. As Sam, I think he was very well done. Um, the who do I think was poorly done? I don't know anyone who was like acted badly. I guess everyone I think was fine. It's weird just seeing like John Bon Jovi in this movie. I don't know what dirt Gary Marshall has on these people to get them to be in this movie for him. The cinematography was kind of just bland. It was very safe. So nothing good or bad on that. There was a good shot I really did like, though. And the dialogue writing, there is some stuff that's really like movie moment for the initiation of a character to get on the path of what they're doing, which was like that 20 minutes of introductions, which is it's a lot. It's overly saturated with characters, which is a movies can have a lot of characters, but it just seems like so much to come at you in this movie because they try to give every character with a name and a speaking line a character for the movie kind of thing for me. And it can be very messy, but I think they handled it again as best as they could with it in a very loose fashion of like looking at, the 8 stories on a storyboard chart and overlapping what needs to be what. It's like, oh, Kim's related to Paul, and Kim has a daughter, and Sam's waiting for Kim, and uh, Claire's Stan's daughter, and like all these overlaps to get the story what they want. But they could have just tightened it. It could have been such a good movie if it was tightened in like little witty things and the red herrings that actually emit maybe not for what you think they're for, but they go to something else which is tighter. And I think the nice little mystery to Sam. I think something they should have done for this film is focus far more on the drama aspect of the genre of the entirety of the tone versus the comedy. And some of the comedy does work, and I'm not saying get rid of all the comedy. I just think it needed to be more of a focal point on the drama, and I think that would have really helped tighten the storylines of the characters. I know there's always something I'm forgetting, but overall, balancing it all out, I have it at a 5.
Yeah, we're all pretty close. I guess if that's all, gentlemen, I can read us out.
Yep.
I think so.
All right. Thank you, audience, for listening, whether it be Spotify, Amazon, Castbox, Good Pods, iHeartRadio, Podcast, and Samsung. And if you happen to be on our visual side of things, be it YouTube or Rumble, watching our Slime Jabber, thank you for watching us there. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe everywhere. Tell us how much you hate our opinions or how much you love them. As always, I have been a Geeky Writer.
I'm Crimson Maroon.
And I'm Springs.
And we will catch you next time. Later, everybody.
Bye.
Toodaloo.